YouTube. Hey, Frank and Slap came in early this week, so I'm starting a little bit. Have a wee jam to start with anyway. Good on, Jack. I can start. How's it going? Hey, the Greg Bennett you bought. Oh, you did talk about it. I can't remember what model it was you were looking at. What kind of model was it, Frank? I really don't know much about the. Not 801 yet, but it's time to start thinking. Shake up the toenails. Yeah, the only thing I really know about the Greg Bennett ones is, well, I know who he is, and those the mini guitars. I don't know if I've ever actually seen any other ones. I think there's a bass somebody was talking about, a Torino one. It'll be good though. It'll be like a sort of Samick kind of higher range. They always kind of did a higher range. They did sort of cheaper guitars, but they also did. I remember Hondo's. I had Formula One guitars, a couple of them, which are like it's a premium range, and then there were Fame, which I think were a sort of the premium range as well, and then there was the Artist series, and then there was the Greg Bennett. I think they're all kind of like the premium ones. I mean, Samick are pretty much always good, but then I think that they kind of tried to differentiate a little bit from the cheapest ones. I don't think they really suffer. I don't know if they did really expensive guitars, like really expensive ones, but the BC Rich bitch copy I had was fantastic. Hey Craig, how's it going? Torino one. I wish I had the technology to be able to look that up. I'm not going to try that, but I'm going to put myself full screen so I can actually see. There we go. God Evening. Oh, could be. Hey Morbid Angel, playing a spiky one tonight. Morbid Angel he's from Poland, so he's just quite. I apologise there for having to sometimes use the translator because his English isn't his first language, and it's like English is my first language and I'm not very good at it. So an Aria RS Special Soft V. That sounds good. Hey, Macaroon. I know they are. I don't know what the Soft V is. I think I've done a video. Does my pal Ivor? Is his not an RS Special? It's kind of it looks the same as Cliff Burton's from Metallica, body wise, but it's got like a headstock like the ones that are both behind the light switch. it's got that kind of headstock, that shape. There's actually one for sale here. I know Contact here in America. There's someone selling I don't think it's not a Soft V. It's kind of, unfortunately, it's not actually that expensive, but somebody's painted it. Somebody's painted it red, and they've chosen a really bad color of red, a sort of orangey one. Soft V neck, right? The V necks are awesome. I would try one first because some folk don't like them, but I do like them. You don't get them in very many guitars. Really, the only guitars I'm really aware of to get the Washburn Stage series, but not all of them have like quite an extreme V neck, and the Washburn Force. I've got one from 82 that's got the extreme V neck. I've got a bass neck from a Washburn Force 4 from about 82 that's got this extreme V neck, but my Force 8 bass from 83 has got a normal neck, and my Force 1 guitar from 84 has a slight V. I'd probably call it a soft V, but they're all good. Hey Daniel, you bought a Fujigen Oddity? Awesome. I just did a video with Scott yesterday on his one. Odysseys, I think, is his one. It's the one that's like that's the sort of Stratty one. I'm not sure whether, I don't know how. There is an even more Stratty one. The one Scott's kind of like looks a bit like a Charvel, so it's like a Strat body ish with 2 humbuckers and no scratch plate. There is one. I'm not sure what the other ones are. Ibanez breaks eggs. What's the country's production? This one is a Japanese 1985 Destroyer. Nobody would put real Snake on a guitar, so that's what I did. It's not meant to have the bridge was all destroyed and it had all been hooked out, so I basically blocked it off like physically with a big piece of wood, and then so it shouldn't have a Tune-o-matic on it. And I also added in the middle pickup, which I kind of wish I hadn't done, but to be honest, that's what I'm using just now to get like that's why it sounds sort of clean. Whereas you put it onto the real pickups, they're not clean. It's like I was saying earlier on, and I was talking to somebody about the Raider. It kind of looks like a heavy metal guitar, but doesn't really feel like one, and it's got like skinny frets, very much a Strat neck, and in the Strat tremolo, it kind of almost sounds more like a Strat than a heavy metal guitar. Whereas this one, with these pickups, and it kind of does sound like what it's meant to do. It sounds very different to the Aria though. Now that I plugged it in, because it's got pickups. The Blade Runner, which I was playing during the week, has got pickups that look very similar to this, but they're not the same pickups. They're much more vintagey, classicy. These are sledgehammers, they really are kind of almost to the point of being useless clean. Like that's clean. That's the clean channel on my amp. Output on these is absolutely stupid. It's like the point where you just go, I will put the highest output pickups we can, and then the pickup company and probably Goto has gone, look, we can make them pretty pop, but I don't think you want them. Have you heard them? It's like, no, we want the most powerful one. This is the X series. It's like, it's got to be the most extreme, and it's like they really are. Clean channel. I know the sound isn't very good on the live streams. There's not really anything I can do about that. Yeah, so this was Japanese. I've actually got an interesting one in here, but I'm not going to play since I found out how much it costs. I was cleaning that up earlier on. That's an expensive one, but it's 2020, so it's pretty much like the model came out, so it's brand spanking new in my book. Quite interesting. Just that I need to set up. Hey Craig, like the Epiphone Thunder bass, where it looks like a Tokai one, massive, like a crane. Need to learn some stuff on it now. It's really difficult to the Thunderbird's one of those, but there's a lot of guitars like that you've got to want to play it to make it work. I think Rickenbackers are like that. To a certain extent, my SG was like that because I loved an SG. I got it and it was like, this is really weird feeling and it's neck hit and all these things, but you kind of, because you just want to play it so much. Whereas you get other things like this, which in practical terms actually plays really well. And it's really comfortable and sensible. And as you see when you're playing sitting down, you can sit with it between your legs. That's why I copied it for my double neck one. It does the same thing when you're playing my double neck. It's basically two of these with a bass neck on top. You can sit with a bit between your legs so that actually when you're sitting down, you're not taking any of the weight of the guitar and it sits at this angle. It's really handy. Really good. Interesting to see how you got on with the FGN Odyssey. Scott's actually he's a little bit more critical than me. He's not really happy with the bridge pickup. But as I did a video with, I was talking to him all day yesterday about it. I'll chop that up and stick it up during the week. Something like that you can catch up. But he rates it, and a few of his guitars are, really, really, really nice, really expensive ones. I don't know if I can get on with the Thunderbirds. The problem is, it's like my pal G had one years ago. So he had the Thunderbird and I had the whatever it was I had at the time, the P bass. And I did like it, but it kind of wasn't mine. That was his thing. So even though I don't think he plays bass anymore, I haven't seen him in ages. Well, I saw him actually a few weeks ago, but apart from that, I haven't seen him in a couple of years. I don't think he really plays bass anymore. The Thunderbird was always his thing because he's quite tall and it's because it's massive. It really is just huge. It's pretty good. Jack and Danny Brothers. I don't know. Made in Hong Kong. I wonder if they are made in Hong Kong. I've not heard of. I don't think I've ever heard of guitars being made in Hong Kong. I mean, there could be like a Hong Kong company. The way that I suppose Washburn were an American company, but they made them in Japan. That sort of thing. I suppose you get Fenders made in Japan and Asia and stuff like that. So I don't know. An Aria SL series. SL's a little bit later. I think that's the Samick era and the Super Strat. And I'm not that keen in Super Strats, although you can argue that they're super. That's a Super Strat sort of. That's like a kind of early one. I think that's purely just down to when I was started playing the guitar. All the guitar shops had Super Strats everywhere, and all the ones you could get that were 5 to 10 years old were all Super Strats. This is sort of late 90s. All the sort of when the guitars were at their best price, when they're about 10 years old, that's when you get them at the best price. And they were all Super Strats, and I was into Sabbath and the Stones and prog rock and stuff from the 70s. So something like this probably wouldn't really appeal to me either. But I wanted more traditionally type things. But I mean, for 80 quid, you're basically talking about £300. It would have been £300 new in 1990. So it's like it's not a cheapie. How's our pad? I see that as an Ibanez. Yeah, I put the stick as a sticker. This logo, although this headstock is original, this logo, because it's obviously it's actually snake leather on it, real snake. I just stuck that on it, but this would originally have had something more similar to that on it. This is 86. So it's basically it would have had a logo like that, and it would have said, instead of saying Roadstar, it would have said X series, and it's got that. What does it say? The ultimate expression of craftsmanship, something like that, written on it. Which I wouldn't have taken off, but this guitar had been sanded down to the bare body. You can see it's so that's why you don't get natural coloured basswood guitars. They just look like that, basswood. This is actually signed by quite a few famous people, but some of it rubbed off. I had 2 pens with me, and a black one and a blue one. And when I got home, I varnished over the top of it, and the black pen is preserved forever, and the blue pen dissolved into the varnish and disappeared overnight. So it is signed by Sam Topman and Herman Lee from Dragon Force, and that's the singer, and that's the keyboard player somewhere as well, drawn around the outsides. And Sabaton, the band Sabaton, and one of the guitarists in Sabaton was really impressed with this guitar, kind of tried to buy it off me. As it's standing on standing eating a kebab outside the ABC on Sucky Off Street in Glasgow. Art guitars has a compound radius 7.25 to 9.5. What would I set the saddle radius? Well, I would go for the night. It's a good question. I don't know what I would set it to. I mean, my FGN, my figuring guitar, has a compound radius as well, and I just did it by eye. I don't know. I mean, technically, I don't know how you would set that. Would you go for the if you've got 7.25, 9.5 like that though? That's a nicer radius. My FGN is like it's millimeters. It's more like 9.5 to 12 or something. You know, that it's more like that. It's not the 7 to the 9. It's more like the 9 to the 11 or whatever it is. I'd go for the 9.5. But that's where you're sitting there thinking, if you think about it, you know, the strings are closer at the nut, and then when they get to the 12th fret, they're further apart. And when they get to the bridge, they're even further apart. So if you're doing the radius thing, then as it goes further back, it would be continuing to get flatter. Yeah. So if you imagine the neck, instead of 7.25 here, 9.5 here, if you put it here, it would be 10.5 or something like that. So maybe 9.5 and above, possibly. I would maybe set it just going on that principle because that makes sense. If it's kind of tightly curved here, less curved here, then it's going to be even less curved here. Yeah, that's how I would do it. Mathematically, that pleases me. So I would put it at like a 10, something like that. Arias are expensive over here, Frank. Are you in Ireland? I lived in Ireland till I was 29. My second guitar was an Aria Pro 2. It was cheaper new. But some of them are worth more money. I couldn't believe how much these the ZZB went for, and even things like the Blade Runner. They're now expensive. But it's one of those things that if you look up eBay, because they're really good, and there's idiots like me doing videos of them saying they're amazing, people will go, all right, that's a really good guitar. I'll try it at £600 or whatever. Maybe not necessarily what they sell for. Maybe if you look up like completed listings for ones that have gone in auction, because I mean the last Aria Pro I bought was that laser, and I think I paid 75, 80 quid. No, it was 100 and something, 120 or something I paid for it, and it's like it's one of the lesser known ones. Because I mean the ones you get, the more people know about it, the more knowledge there is, the more money they can charge for it. Oh. Yeah, Craig, when P-Bass is the best. But that's like saying, like, what kind of guitar did you buy a Telecaster first? Because you should have, because they're the best. But yeah, it depends what it is you're trying to do. There we go. Hold on. Get a wee bit caught up. Get a wee bit right. The bridge in Fujigen is not right. Once you set the action, the grub shoes stick out and scratch the hand. That is exactly what I noticed with Scott's one as well. Yes, I noticed that exactly. I didn't notice it because my hand didn't ever touch it, but I noticed looking at it that they seemed, if you set the saddles really low, obviously there's a point where the grub screws extend beyond the tops of the saddles. So I know exactly what you mean. It does seem. It does. I mean, there's obviously ways around it. Obviously, you can shim the neck, but you don't really want to do that because it's a pure super tight thing. It's like what you can do, and I have done this before, is you take out the wee grub screws and you angle grind the bottom of them off, leaving or you hacksaw the bottom of the grub screws off, and then you leave the top bit where the Allen key is, and you kind of make it a little bit like a sort of ball end so it's not flat, and then do it that way so you can just physically reduce, or you can actually if you don't fancy doing that, you can actually buy grub screws at different lengths. I've bought them before because they're Japanese and they're modern, so there will be a standard metric size. You can buy shorter ones, maybe as a way around it, but it's not perfect. No, mine doesn't have that. Mine seems to be perfect. Again, I mean, okay, I said it was brand new, but it's like a 2019, so it's possible that it's had work done to it that I don't really know about. Wee things like that. Yeah, don't know. Yeah, okay, no, the Thunderbird. It's a great bass. It's too big. It's when you ever try and take it out of the studio, you realise I'll just get a case for it, and every case you've got, no matter how stupid shaped it is, bits of it stick out. I used to have the same problem with these. You know, I've taken this to the studio and stuff like that, and it's like perfect, and there's just like a big horn sticking out the end, or you can have it sticking out the top, or whatever. I did actually eventually I got a really good case for that, like a pure tight, exactly this shape gig bag. It's fantastic, so it would fit that, and this, but I can only take one at a time. The other two just have to be out in the open because you just don't get cases unless you have a keyboard case or something like that. But with the shape of it, this doesn't fit in a normal guitar case. It has to be a bass case. It has to be an extra wide bass case. Even though it's not light and there's not that much of the guitar, it's like, you know, it's like lying in a double bed like this, you know, sleeping star shape, because that's why you need a double bed. You know, kind of. That's what this is doing. Quite funny. Hey, Ravensmead. Oh, I mean, this is a DT350 X series from 1985. 350, but it's been modded, snakeskin and stuff. It's also, I've not mentioned, it's got a scalloped fingerboard, like quite heavily scalloped on this side, and not scalloped at all on this side, and it kind of starts round about the fifth. If I get the angle right, you see it. I didn't do that; it was already scalloped when I got it. You can see it there. See, it starts to get scalloped there. So for here, you can get pure extreme bends because you can get your finger flat on the fretboard. So instead of the bottom of your finger grabbing the string, it's like 5 mil up, so you can actually bend strings much further. To be honest, I don't really notice. Maybe it's, you know, the extreme things. I know Steve Vai does it from the 24th fret, the last 4 frets, so you can get more in behind them. I'm not. It's a novelty, but it doesn't really make any difference. Your neck fit's not as good in the Fujigen. That's surprising. Because I mean, mine's and Scott's are both better than Mexican Fenders. I wonder if you got a bad. I wonder if it's been dropped or altered, or I don't know. The thing is, you got to remember as well with the Fujigens, it's a £500 guitar. It's not a £1,500 guitar. It favours very, very, very well against other £500 guitars. But I mean, I keep talking about the video I did yesterday. I put it out during the week. That RASL my daughter is taking to play at school at O levels. Brilliant, yeah. And I bet you that it's one of the best guitars in your daughter's class, and I bet you it cost way less than all the other guitars. The problem with something like an Aria, it's the look thing. People want Strats and SGs because that's, and I totally understand that. I've already got my Strat and SG on a telly, so I don't need any more. But all the sort of funny shaped ones, your super stratty ones and stuff, are kind of, it's not as obvious. It's not as much of a badge of identity the way like an SG is. You know, I'll get the SG. Why? Look, Tony Iommi, Angus Young, George Harrison. Yeah, it's there, but it's like, I play an Ibanez Snakeskin Destroyer. It just says, you're a bit of a loony. Do you like Steel Panther? And it's like, no, but you know, that kind of idea. Looking at the Chinese wholesale company, the pickups in my Finland copy are there, and they're $5 a pair. Defo garbage. Don't knock the Chinese pickups. I've been buying them quite a lot. And I've never had ones that I've bought new that weren't really good for what they were. Maybe different if you're buying them in a guitar. But I mean, I think when you go to China, you can see how much these things actually cost to buy them and how much is stuck on by the time we have to pay for them. Just when I know that, you know, like a £30 guitar is £200, we pay for it. So it's like that sort of thing. So if it's a £30 guitar, that kind of cranks up what all the other parts are worth as well. You know, I mean, you can buy a set of tuners for 75 pence or something in China, and those are the ones we get for a £5, which are all right. They're obviously not going to touch Gotohs or Schollers or anything like that, but they work. What you do differently? Just set the strings individually in a compound neck. Yeah, but you're talking about the actual curve of on the bridge. I don't know. I mean, it's the things. I mean, obviously, like a Tune-o-matic, you don't have any curvature. It's just set to whatever the Tune-o-matic is. You know, it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's when it's wrong, you can sort of hear it wrong, but there's a big gap of when it sounds right, but you can get it pure perfect. If you know, it's like, I mean, I will notice like if a guitar's not intoned right, but I will not notice if it's just a wee bit wrong. Like I can live with a Telecaster. Got a few guitars, you know, with basically the D and the G strings, because they're sitting on one saddle. You do get compensated saddles, and you can hammer it at an angle and all these things, but you can't with one saddle. You can't get the D and the G to intone together because one's wound and one isn't. So you have to just make the G slightly flat and the D slightly sharp. It's just something you have to do, but it gives it character. That's why a guitar sounds different than if you ever like see if you see someone playing like guitar sounds. Obviously, you can sample anything with sampling keyboards, sampling a guitar. So the sound, if you play one note, it's exactly that sound because you've sampled it into the keyboard. But a guitar has an awful lot more imperfections everywhere. You know, it's like it doesn't all the strings aren't all the notes aren't in tune. You know, all your open strings absolutely bang on, 12th fret, all absolutely bang on. So your intonation's perfect, but the notes in the middle aren't because it's not. They're divided up sort of evenly, and they're not even. Sometimes you want, you know, like you've seen the Steve Vai guitar, the one where the frets kind of go like that. You know, it's like that's meant to give you better intonation because some chords just don't sound quite as wonderful because one of the notes is a wee bit flat because on the third fret it's a wee bit flat, but on the second fret it's just a wee bit sharp. You know, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what gives a guitar so much character because it's got a bit of a voice thing going on about it. You know, it doesn't sound like when somebody plays, you can never really get on a keyboard because it is perfect. Or you can set it up to be perfect because a guitar kind of has got that sort of just a wee bit off just to get, which makes you notice it. Whereas if it's just perfect, it becomes you don't hear any character in it, and there's nothing to catch on to. It doesn't interest you. Your brain just goes, "Yeah, I know what that is. It's boring." You know, AXXX Paps. Oh, Destroyer, but it looks like a Jackson Star. Which was first? It's a good question. The answer is I don't know. When was it? Charvel Star, Jackson Star. There definitely was a star. It's not quite the same shape. Obviously, appealing to myself, being a bit of a Star Wars fan. This is a destroyer. So it's a Star Destroyer. And also see my big double neck one. It's a Super Star Destroyer. If you're a geek, you know there's one of them in Empire Strikes Back. Oh. Hey, Joakim, how's it going? The ones when we were growing up were Satellite, Aria, Marlin, Hondo, Tokai. Yeah, and some of them were good, but the problem, I don't know. I've totally gone off Marlin. I really got to the point now where I totally wouldn't really buy a Marlin again. They weren't very good, and the Hondos can be ropey as well. If you get like a Formula One or a Fame series or a sort of high numbered one, they can be really good, but the cheaper ones really aren't. You know, you get to the point where you can't really make it any better, where they're really heavy and all that, and it's like the Marlins tend to have funny bridges on them. If it's got like a strap bridge, you're fine because you can easily buy a modern strap bridge from, you know, like from China for a $5 or something like that, and it'll be fine. You know, it won't be brilliant, but it'll be fine. And it's like, but it's got like some sort of Caller thing or some sort of other type of bridge that you can't easily replace. Even if it's got like if you're buying a guitar that's got a crap Floyd Rose in it that's gone into a bit missed, you can just buy another Floyd Rose quite easily for 10, 15, 20 quid, pop it in. At least you can make it work. Whereas there's a bit of a problem with actually this model of guitar. With the Ibanez have their own bridge systems. That one there has got like an Ibanez edge on it, which is actually very similar to the one that's on the modern guitar. It's a wee bit rounder and a wee bit more refined, but basically the same thing. But that is just a Floyd Rose, so it works. And you could, if it did break, you could replace it. Whereas the ones before it, like ones like this, I can't remember if this one did have. This one had there's a hard rocker and a pro rocker. The hard rocker is a sort of their own design, sort of take, sort of like a Strat bridge, but not quite. Different spacings for everything. And then the pro rocker's sort of like a Floyd Rose, but different shape. And it's, you can't, on the hard rocker, if you lose a bit or it breaks or it wears out, you can't just put a normal bridge back in again. You have to do something else. On this one, I had to block it with a big block of mahogany from Jimmy Moon guitars, actually. So the rest of the piece of wood that this bridge is sitting on is probably on a £5,000 acoustic. So I'd imagine it's a bit that was cut off the end of the neck. That's what I went to see Jimmy Moon, who's no longer, I think he's still building guitars, but he doesn't have his shop in Glasgow anymore. No, someone told me the shop's still there, but he doesn't work there. I went in with this years ago, and I was always told he was an awkward guy and people didn't like him. And I was like, what can I do with this? You know, and a big hole in it. Obviously, it wasn't snake-skinned at that point. Big hole where the bridge should be. I was like, what are you going to do with this? And he went, and I went, I don't say put it in the bin. And he was like, damn, I was going to say put it in the fire. Therefore, we had it off, got on great. Lovely guy. Lovely guy. Oh. But yeah, the guitars I shape are dead handy. The thing about the thing about this thing is, see when you see the Charvel Star guitar, it's not quite this shape. It's a bit more uneven. There's more of the guitar. There's less guitar at this side and more guitar down there. And if you're used to looking at this one, a Charvel Star guitar looks pure horrible. It's like it just looks wrong. But that kind of happens with anything. That's why sometimes see when you see like certain Telecaster copies or certain Strat copies, they just look pure wonky and wrong because something's not quite right because you're so used to looking at it. If you've got one, really used to look at this. I used to have this mounted on my wall like a fish. It didn't stack that way. It had a mounting point that I just hang it like that, like a hook here and a hook there, which I should probably maybe put it there. Maybe do that. Back to the Beth James brand new. I don't know. It seems a bit disappointing, but I mean, maybe I was just lucky. I don't know. The one I tried in Merchant City in Glasgow was exactly the same as mine. And maybe it depends on how picky I'm going to be. It's like, if I'm buying like, the Squire Bullet or something like that for 120 quid, it gets a lot of leeway from me. I'll sit there and go, Pierrot, it's amazing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fantastic. But if you're really going to look at it, the paint, neck, all these things are brilliant. But if you're paying $5,000 for a guitar, it better damn tootin' be absolutely spotless and unfaultable. Frank, you can replace the nut in a couple of your guitars. A big job. It's not necessarily that big. Just make sure you buy the right one. It's really annoying sometimes getting the old nut out. And when you're using files, like try to do it with these things. The wee crappy ones you get in Lidl takes forever and it's crap. I bought a file. It was a really cheap one if you look these up on eBay. I just dropped them down there. Right. This one. It used to have something written on it. Oh, you can't. It's got you can't read it. This one, right? You can still get. Maybe it was about £6 or £7. It's pure lethal. Like, see if you're talking put into it. See if you just go and push down on it, you can saw right through the nut in 2 seconds and be right down to the wood. So in this one, you just have to you kind of lay it on the top and gently put it back forward. But it's a much better way than sitting there with those wee stupid red files where you can sit and score away at it forever. Just basically buy. I mean, you can get obviously you can the Graphtec ones that aren't really that much more expensive. I actually bought a nut for a bass yesterday, or Saturday, and it's like about £3 or something for one. But see if you buy the plastic ones, you get them from China. If you can be bothered waiting, you can get half a dozen for a couple of quid, and it depends what guitar it is. If you've got like a £2,000 guitar, you're not going to put a 50p plastic nut on it. You're going to put a graphite, or one of them was, what was the one Scott was talking about? Was it Mammoth Tusk? Like genuine Mammoth Tusk. You get it. It wasn't cheap, but it was like £12 or something. It's like you weigh up, it's like up here. Oh, it's a new nut. It's up here. It's Mammoth Tusk. How many times do you have to enjoy telling people that to get your £12 worth? And it's like not very many, or a tenner's worth. I would really enjoy having one that had Mammoth Tusk on it. Just same as I enjoy telling people that this has got real Python on it. good fun. Yeah. Review for an Art guitar. I don't know. Art guitar sounds cheesy. Not the Fujian, which is clearly a better guitar. It depends. Each horses for courses, really. But I mean, I've got no problem with the FGN. It's exactly what I like. It's a telly, but it's not quite a telly. Maybe it just depends. It depends on what you're after, I suppose. But it's like one of those things that, it's like, I don't like the Fujigen telly. I play mostly black metal, and it doesn't, when you run it through a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier at full gain, it doesn't really have any depth, and it's like, well, how can it? Sort of thing. Or I bought maybe a BC Rich isn't a good idea. I bought like an EMG loaded down tuned baritone LTD Les Paul thing, 8-string. But it doesn't really do my Simon and Garfunkel stuff very well, which is why I bought it. And you're like, well, you bought the wrong one, sort of thing. So there's an element of that. Some people might like it, maybe not necessarily bad, just not the thing that you're actually after. The Dream Tower and Adrian Smith Destroyer, they're expensive though. Partly because this actually used to be that colour. There's a little bit of paint left, just there at the top of the fingerboard. The wee stripe between the fingerboard and what was behind it. This used to be the Adrian Smith colour, the sort of candy apple red. But obviously, it's a bound top, and it's got this extra bit cut out to make it star-shaped. His is an 83 or something, an 82 or 83. This is an 85. So you can argue it's kind of is that guitar. Sort of. Made by the same people at the same place. Probably cost about the same amount of money. It's just that this is the 1985 version with a little bit more pointiness to it. Yeah, that's X-Paps. You're talking about the nut files, yeah. But the thing is, I refused to buy the StewMac nut files because it was like, I think it was 65 quid for the set of files. And it's like, if you're doing every day, you're doing nuts. Yeah, but I mean, Frank's talking there about it on a couple of his guitars. It's like, how many £65? And okay, obviously it's much better using the better tools, but I had the same thing with DeWalt drills. When I was a joiner, I used to use a Black & Decker drill. It was totally fine. It was fine. Then I got a shot of a DeWalt, and the DeWalt was just better. But see, when you spend all day putting up a fence, every day, or you see you're battering in hundreds of screws a day, that you need the DeWalt. It's the same with if you're doing 10 guitars a day every day, then yeah, totally buy the StewMac files for 60 quid. It will save you time in the long run. But if you're kind of going to do one or two, it may take you twice as long. It takes you half an hour instead of 15 minutes to do it, or an hour instead of half an hour. Using that file, you're only going to do it a couple of times or once every few months or one. It's like, it's where you spend the money. Kind of up to you. I just don't like the idea of sitting there with tools that you can't use because you kind of get scared of damaging them as well. Oh, I'm getting a wee bit behind. Spike the likes, everybody. Apparently, likes make a big difference to my YouTube algorithm. And there's 1980. Well, somebody left with that, so maybe I won't say that again. Nuts are easy to change for the most part. Strats can be challenging. Tusk nuts are good. Yeah, the thing about nuts is that even the expensive ones aren't really that expensive. It's not like, it's £1 for or £2 for a cheap one and £50 for a Tusk one. It's like the Tusk ones are only, twice the price or something. So it's like, and if you're going to spend the time doing it, definitely if you're going to get somebody, if you're paying somebody to fit it, just buy the most expensive nut, or not the most expensive. Get a Mammoth Tusk one, make them fit that instead, because they're going to charge you 30 quid to fit it. So, 30 quid to fit it, £2 for the nut is £32, or £30 to fit it, and a tenner for the nuts. It kind of comes in that way, a little bit that way. I feel a wee bit that way with pickups as well. Like your Warmans and your Wilkinsons are really for people who are going to fit them themselves, sort of, or get somebody cheap, not like a proper guitar shop to do it, because a guitar shop, obviously, it's exactly the same swapping in bare knuckles as it is swapping in Warmans. It's the same job, so they have to charge you £100 to change the pickups. So if you can spend £120 to upgrade your guitar to £20 pickups, or you can spend £200 and get them upgraded to £100 pickups. There are different ways around it. But I don't have any issues with plastic nuts. They're fine. Again, maybe if I only had one guitar or two guitars and it was like a really expensive one, I would spend a bit more on it. But if you're talking about basically any guitar that I'm keeping myself, plastic nuts are fine. Tone plastic though. It's the file in the nut that worries me. Yeah, it's what you can do is you can actually use the old bit of string you cut off to kind of floss it, if you know what I mean. Just basically cut them to the right size. I've had quite a few guitars. What was the one I had? A guitar recently that had it still had its factory strings on it. And see when I took the strings off, I had to physically pop them out the nut because the nut just wasn't quite. It was just pure tight on it. And see if it's pure tight on it. It means when you bend a string up, obviously when you bend it, it's got to go somewhere. So it'll pull it through the nut a little bit because it was so tight. It just stayed there. So every time you bent a note up, it would go boo, and then you'd let go of it, and it would stay sharp because it pulled itself through the nut and didn't slide back through again. So you want it to be a bit looser, so it can slide back and forward. You don't want it to grip hold of it. You're going to pull it through. Oh no, get caught up. Oh, I'm not doing well with the time. Hey Blacktooth, I'll be drunker soon. Don't worry about it. Need some good advice for wall mount hangers for both guitar and bass. We'll build some. What you got? Brands or type that works? I don't really want to know. What I've used, those are in the pound shop. Things for it's garden shed. It's like for putting spades and stuff on, hanging them up in your garden shed. So it was like £4 for £1 or something, and that's just basically a piece of CLS. Was it 4x2? I just bought it being cute, and then it's just mounted. As it's like the old universal load distribution, where you just basically try and rather than having one point that's taking the whole weight of a guitar, I've got like a wooden bar that's got 4 or 5 points in it, so they're all spread evenly among it, so it's much stronger. But you get the Hercules things and all that. I suppose it depends. And mind you, they did actually fall off the wall one time because I hadn't put them up properly. It's not actually that bad when they fall. You can kind of catch it. It's just like the whole world seems to be going, oh, it's like terrifying. Hey Stu, how's it going? From Memphis, Tennessee. That's where Elvis. What's that? Left her home and I sent you to the telephone. Is that not called Memphis something? No. The Promised Land, is that not? Memphis in it. I could probably I've got a chance if you give me a map of America with like the states outlined but not named. I could possibly find roughly where Memphis was. I'm hopelessly ignorant about American geography. Jesus, screws and rock plugs. Yeah. Well, even the screws and rock plugs, it depends what you're going into. That wall's pure rubbish. So I just went for as many screws and things as I could get in, and some of them didn't really grip anything, and some of them did. So some of them are onto the uprights. Some of them aren't. I've even actually went over and double checked them. See there's wee angle things. That's actually from an amp that I cut up to get, because I couldn't be bothered going to the shop to buy angles, and then just so that if you look at them, it's kind of a twisting force on that wooden bar. Working your way in. Interesting. You buy inexpensive guitars and upgrade with premium hardware and save 50%? Possibly. I don't know. It depends which ones you're buying, though. Because I remember seeing folk buying, like, they buy the cheapest Fender Squier and then spend £200 on Fender pickups and Fender tuners and stuff. What you've just got is a Fender Squier. But if you're never going to sell it, then fair enough. But generally, I think you're better just buying the more expensive guitar rather than buying a £150 guitar and spending £150 in parts. You're probably better off just getting a £300 guitar. Like the whole thing. The army marches at the speed of the slow soldier and all that. If you've got, you kind of, I can sort of see the point. And if you like messing about with it, then who am I to say? I kind of always try and keep things, because I'm really cheap, miserly. I always, when I modify a guitar, unless it's really silly, I kind of want it to be worth more than it was when I started. and I've bought a lot of guitars secondhand for not an awful lot of money, which have more money's worth of parts. Like maybe half a dozen times I've bought a guitar with Seymour Duncan's, all that stuff in it, for the price of the standard guitar, and then I've sold the Seymour Duncan's or whatever it was in it, and ended up with the rest of the guitar free, or the guitar without pickups and tuners for free, and then I put lower grade stuff on to make it back up and sold the guitar for what I bought it for. You know, it's like as long as I think as long as you put as long as you're clever with it, and if you're ever going to sell it, you can put the original stuff back on again, because you find that a £200 guitar that you put £200 worth of pickups in does not make a £400 guitar. It makes a £250 guitar. Whereas if you take the pickups back out and put the originals back in, and then sell the pickups separately or use them in a next project, they're there. JTV 69 with a Mim Maple Strat neck to Jimmy Egypt's Tomorrow for a top drawer setup. If I give it to too many bends or trim wiggles, the tuning goes haywire. I'm sure Jimmy Egypt seems to be brilliant. Scott really rates him. I mean, yeah, he's really good at what he does. He does have all the proper tools. It's just like I've got no problem doing these things myself, but I mean, he'll just do a better job of it. There's a certain level of confidence you would get from that. Like, kind of the reason I don't fix my car, if I take it to a garage and they put a new clutch in it, I believe that clutch is well put in, whereas I've put it in myself, I'd be like, I did it, can it be good? You know, even if it does cost so much more. Memphis is in the middle, yeah, totally. Left my home in downtown Patel, California on my mind. Sorry, it's like this guitar is really rocking. You've got a single coil. Yeah, I know. I'm an Elvis fan. If you're not an Elvis fan, then you've not watched the right Elvis. Because anyone who's seen the film that got me was there's one called That's the Way It Is, and you kind of go, Elvis, why does everyone? That's fine, you know, that's fine. And you watch that and you go, all right, he's awesome. Love it. Stax, Volt, Big Star. Big Star's one of those bands I've heard lots of people talk about, but I don't really know that much about. I know Primal Scream used to like them. A Phenomenon Moron, good name. I like that. Harley Benton bring out some cheap but lovely basses. Yeah, I mean, go for it. Hang me up. I think most of the people who review Harley Bentons get given them for free. So if someone's going to give me a Harley Benton, you know, if Harley Benton are going to give me a Harley Benton for free, I would definitely have a look at it. Sunday night's my Bucky night. It's been a whole week since the last time I did a Bucky. I'm going to have to tank into it. Yeah. I do rate Harley Bentons. It's one of those funny things that is. I mean, you can tell. It's like, you know, going, oh, my performance is as good as a Gibson. Yeah, well, in many ways it sort of is. For the money, it's totally better, but you can sort of tell when it's a really expensive guitar. It's like, as soon as you pick it up, you go, well, yeah. I mean, it's really good. There's not really anything wrong with it, but it won't feel like the absolute premium. And the thing is, it's like the law of diminishing returns as well. The higher you go up the scale, the lesser the increments are. You know, the difference between like a £200 and a £400 guitar is that much. And then the difference between a 400 and 800 is that much. And the difference between an 800 and a 1600 is that much. And by the time you get up to like 1,500 quid, you're only going up. It's only that much better, but it's an extra £1,000. But that's just the way it is. It's kind of like if you're trying to get a car to do, like my Panda probably does 100 over 100 miles an hour. So it's like this tinkiest car you can buy does 100 miles an hour. That's easy. To get a guitar that does 120, you need to spend twice as much. And then when you start getting, it's like 150. Okay, fair enough. Quite a lot of cars do 150. Oh, it's quite, you have to go quite a lot price up in power to get to 150, 60, 170. And there's not really any cars that do 200s. Some do, Well, that's when you get to your, your £1 million McLarens and Bugatti Veyrons and stuff like that to do 200, whereas lots of cars for a tenth of the price can do 180. But just to get that extra wee bit, you have to put so much more into it. But I mean, no, I don't buy new guitars. I like buying older ones because you can get better quality guitars, and then upgrade the parts. But the upgrading the parts thing kind of doesn't apply to the 80s Japanese guitars I like, because they're already all got really good parts. It's like, they come as standard with Gotoh tuners and Gotoh pickups and basically Gotoh hardware, and it's like, yes, there are ones that you can buy more expensive. You could buy tuners better than these. 5% better, but it's going to cost you £100. It's like, no, you don't need 5% better. They're fine, That's Brown-Eyed Handsome Man, Chuck Berry. It's not meant to be, but I think they're probably all the same. Left my home in North Virginia, California, on my mind. The promised land. It's in Men in Black, actually, I seem to remember. Jet guitars. It's a cool name. Jet. But I don't know. I don't know anything about them. No. Eastman guitars. Chinese, but not cheap. Caught as well on their website. Only as a top 0 in the line. Also really nice guitars. There's obviously going to be a stigma on them though, because it's in China, and it's like, I do appreciate if you're going to buy a £1,000 guitar from Japan, or a £1,000 guitar from America, or a £1,000 guitar from China. The £1,000 guitar from China is likely to be better, but what's it worth selling back wise? Or if you've got an American one, obviously it's going to be worth more as soon as you buy it, because people want an American guitar, because American, it's like, so you've got to kind of try and weigh it up. I did see that Cort have relatively recently started doing very expensive guitars. Like, they're coming in, it's pure, I can't believe this guitar is only £1,200, and it's like, to me, £1,200 for a Chinese Cort is like, wow. I mean, I bet you it's really good, but I don't know if I'd be willing to pay £1,200 for a Chinese Cort when I don't pay that for a guitar ever anyway. Hey Scott, how's it going? We've been talking about you. Hey man, Macaroon bought a friggin' guitar as well at the Odyssey. I think the same as yours, and he mentioned the fact that his bridge saddles are the same. You've got the saddles low, so the stabby handy bits are sticking up a little bit. A bit like that. All guitars are broken in age and have a better tone. I don't use the tone word here. I'll leave that to Blacktooth Fox. I think there's an element of that. I think there's also an element of, it might have been, if it was quite an expensive guitar and it was well loved, it may have been set up over the years, and as well as the fact that I know that wood, maybe do the fibers, the crystal fibers in the wood not go hard over time or something, so you can argue that makes a difference as well, because obviously it's obviously expensive to age wood. I mean, it's like if you're building, I don't know, if you're sitting in China and you're building 1,000 guitars a week or whatever it is, having 1,000 guitars worth of wood sitting in a kiln for a year, that's going to cost a hell of a lot of money, as opposed to, we'll just kind of force dry it or something and put it out. And that's for a year. So, I mean, as you're right, most of the guitars I've got are 30, 40 years old. It's getting that way, early 80s, and just kind of, it's getting up to the stage of all my guitars are going to be turning 40, pretty much, apart from the occasional one. It's going to be Scott. The thing is, I find a bit scary. Scott, who's just joined in there, was talking about this earlier on. It's like, I am now at the age, and if you're younger than me, that you'll get to this age where people are talking about vintage guitars, and it's guitars that you still class as being brand new because you remember seeing them. Because now we're 2021, so a 2001 guitar is technically vintage because it's 20 years old, or 2000. A 2000 guitar, and I still think of 2000 as being new. So, I mean, I've been doing up this Ibanez. It's going to be a bit of an Ibanez week, and Ibanez Silver Cadet. I'm looking at it going, oh, it's not bad. It's 1994. It's 28 years old, and it's like, so I mean, you can't really argue. I mean, okay, technically it has to be 20 years old to be vintage, but once you start getting to 25, 30 years old, never mind the technically, it's got to be vintage. 30 years old or something like this. This is what, 85, so it's coming up for 40. Ridiculous. But I mean, yeah, I'm just thinking there, Pontiac, you're talking about the old tone thing. I have been told that before about Antoria guitars, though. Pal Ronnie's up here. Yeah, he remember. It wasn't Ronnie, it was somebody else. And he remembers seeing the Antorias in the shops, because he's obviously a bit older. So he remembers them in the late 70s. I said they were crap, but he's played them now and they're really good. And it's like, maybe in a sort of budget guitar, they were trying to rock it out. So yeah, it just ages better. Was on Guitar Safari last week. Noticed Cash Generator and Partick had a Mad Malcolm bass for sale. Really? Oh well, cool. I'll probably tell Blitzkrieg shop at that. He might go and buy it. I wonder which one it was. I said it's difficult. I can tell you if it's one of mine just by looking at it. If it said Mad Malcolm on it, then it is. I don't even know where Cash Generator and Partick is. Don't know. I wonder how much it is. If it's cheap enough, we'll just buy it back. Hard to get Japanese guitars new. Is it? I wouldn't have thought it would be. I think maybe it's harder to find them, but when you do find them, they're cheaper. Because I was talking to, I think it was Pontiac or somebody else on here the other week, and because you're in America, American guitars, because they don't have import duties and shipping and stuff like that. So any American guitars we get, we had to import and pay tax and shit on them, so they were always expensive. Whereas the Japanese, we were having to import and pay tax on them anyway, but they came in half the price, quarter of the price of the American ones, and it's like, no matter how much of a diehard Gibson fan you are going to sit there and go, well, it's 4 times the price. There's no way it's even twice as good at 4 times the price. So it's like, but then again, that's the argument with a lot of these things. At the time of that sort of thing, that would have been significantly more expensive than a Fender Strat. But now a Fender Strat's worth an awful lot more money. That's still a better guitar than the 1986 Fender Strat, but the Fender Strat's gone up in price more than what that one has. So that's a bit different. You playing any gigs soon? Not get any organised. I need to. I had a really bad time trying to organise getting Cranking House back in the studio. I was set up in the drummer's lap. He was going away on holiday on the 9th. So I was like, anytime before the 8th or after for a week. After that's fine. So right. So I took it on myself to organise the studio. I normally just kind of sit at the back and hope somebody else does it. And it was at times up here, get the studio already ordered, and the last thing was Nick going up here. Yep, I could do any time after the 8th, and you're like, right. So it's already going to have to be just before Christmas the next time we can get in. Looking forward to getting back in with the Black Sabbath band, but hopefully just try and get gigs a bit more running. We've now got, well, Cranking House isn't really ready. Don't really have a half-hour set. We've got a 20-minute set, so we need another 2 or 3 or 4 songs to make it up to without having to put covers in. I can't really be bothered doing covers. We did a gig a couple of months ago, and it was like, playing Born to Be Wild and stuff. I don't mind having those as like a sound check song or an encore if people don't want us to stop, but having them as actually a core part of the set, it's like, nah. Yeah, your 70s Honda's prehistoric. It's like, I don't know when you get to, when does it go beyond being vintage and then on to being, what's better than vintage? Archaeological. Does it have to be buried if it's archaeological? Harmony guitars. I honestly don't even know that much. I think, to be honest, it depends, Stu, which Japanese guitars you're looking at. You've still got the possibility of, in a pawn shop at a yard sale on Craigslist, that these are American things, we call it Gumtree or Facebook Marketplace or in the Barras, of getting, you're not that likely to get an Ibanez really cheap, but an Aria, nobody knows what that is, or a Westone, or all these things. And especially if you go back, when I started playing the guitar, things like Westtones were cheap because nobody liked them. They were shite. I mean, I bought my first Westone bass for My pal bought it for 60 quid. I bought it for 40 quid off him and sold it for 30 quid. And it's now a £200 bass because nobody wanted a Westone because they were completely unfashionable. Whereas now people are starting to go, but it's actually really good. It's much better than any of the other guitars that were coming out new at the time, which it has. Some things have legs and some things don't. Quality stays, you know. I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I try not to be involved in the snobbery thing, but if I had a choice of a US guitar or a Japanese, I'd take the US. If they were the similar sort of price. I don't know. I tend to. I'm not very. If I was going to be a bit better dealer, I would deal in Fenders and Gibsons and stuff like that. The problem is that I just see a Gibson Les Paul and go, I'm not paying £1,500 or £1,000 for a guitar. It's not worth it. For any guitar, really, and especially since like I've got guitars better than a Gibson Les Paul. None of them cost £1,000. You get 2 or 3 for that, but they're not as worth as much money, so they're not as good, but they are better. A71 Bass G. Yes, I have made drinking on a Sunday acceptable. I hope I drink more than everybody else, though. It's my reason. 139, number 34. I can't remember. That's a relatively recent one. Wonder really 139.99 seems to be a number just pulled out of a hat. Because normally cash converters are really bad at finding these things. Maybe they looked them up on the internet somewhere. I don't know. It's gone. Yeah, that was definitely mine. It's kind of quite scary when you start seeing guitars that are sold kind of doing the rounds, and actually you saw them at the picture. I don't know if you saw the picture I put for the thumbnail for this live stream is the Mad Malco neon lights. If you go to the Blitzkrieg shop and it's pretty much at the bars. Tony, the guy, bought his up. I got your neon light. Actually showed me it a few weeks ago, and this time yesterday being Scott popped by the way past, I was just picking up some strings off him, and there it was, my window with the Iron Brew stereo bass and the Van Halen Bucky bass, and then a Mad Malco neon light looking right like a Soho porn theatre light, sort of flashing pink, rocking. I feel like it's maybe a monument, one of those points in your life where you up here. It's like, have you had your name in pink neon lights flashing? Well, I have not, and it's like great. I feel quite proud of that, actually. Pick for some Japanese guitars going down. I think a bunch of folks thought I'll have an old Japanese guitar areas online, possibly, or maybe people are finding them and starting thinking, oh, hold on, that Aria Pro, I've been looking up there. I see them going for $500. Maybe I should sell mine. Whereas there's probably an element of people who knew they were good. And it's like, I've got a couple of guitars like that where you go, I don't really need 3 guitars. I'll sell the third one. And you go, I'm going to get $50 for it. I would rather give it to somebody I knew than sell it to somebody for 50 I didn't know for $50. No, it's like, get a bit of that. Pretty much anything after 87 is not Japanese. There are exceptions, but pretty much. Also, anything before 85 is Japanese. Same with Ibanez. They didn't make them anywhere else up until then. Really, Aria Telecopy, Chinese made, $80. Really? Is that for a brand new one? How can it be bad? How can it be bad? I mean, yeah, Aria went actually, they used mostly the Matsumoku factory, mostly for up until it closed in 1987. There seems to be a thing going there. But they weren't actually owned by them, whereas Westone were actually the Matsumoku factory's home brand of guitars. So all the Westones up until they sold the name to, and they started building them in Korea, are all Matsumoku. You don't Westone was a company that used to build guitars. I think they might have been an American company, and they got guitars built in Japan in the 70s, and then the name kind of fizzled out, and then the Matsumoku factory bought the name Westone, and then they started in 1980 or 1981 building these. So it's all these just changing of names and it gets confusing. Oh, $280. Okay, yeah. I'm sure they're fine. There's actually an Aria Pro, the guy in Lennoxtown. I saw him selling it. It was it was a modern, I would say new, it was in the last 10 years, Aria Pro, and it was kind of like, I don't like Les Paul, sort of, almost Les Paul shaped, apart from the bottom horn, instead of going that way, it went that way, and it had a wave in it, in the back, instead of being round in the back, it kind of did that, and it just looked awesome. It was orange glitter finish with white heart. It just looked absolutely stunning, and I remember him selling it. I bought a bass off him, and a guitar, I think, as projects. I saw this thing on the wall, and then I saw he was selling it, and he was selling it for 280 on Gumtree, and then it was down to 250, and then it was down to 200, and then it was down to 180, and I was just kind of watching this going, at some point I'm going to have to buy that, and it just had disappeared. So I don't know whether somebody bought it or whether he decided I'm not selling it for less than that. So if you're watching this and you've still got the orange Aria, £150 cash, anytime, give me a shout, I'll buy it. Cash converter's price don't seem cheap anymore. Oh, you're going to see Saxon? I'm tempted to go and see Saxon. I've seen Saxon a few times. They're awesome. They're brilliant. Even if Saxon's one of those gigs, to see if you like rock music, go to a Saxon gig. You don't need to know any of the songs, and you will guaranteed love it. It's like their songs are really catchy. It's like, see if you like Kiss or something like that. Saxon are miles better, but not doing the same thing. But they're just really catchy. There's a lot of their songs, even if you've never heard them before, like, see when it comes to the chorus the second time round, you're totally singing along with it, even if it's the first time you've ever heard the song, because it's such a cheesy and obvious pure dun dun. They're really good. I really like them. The Chinese guitars from 10 years ago are not too bad. The new ones, enough said about that. I don't know. It's one of those things that the bean counters have got in. So it's like some of them, it's like him. They're sitting there going up here, right? Okay, we can build a good guitar. It'll cost us £30 to build it, and we can sell it for £200. And you're getting a really good guitar for £200. What happens if we only spend £20 to build it, and we still sell it for £200? That's kind of what happened when all the Japanese factories moved to Korea. Suddenly they started realizing that actually, what's the point in making it really, really good? It only has to be sort of acceptable. So they were really reducing how much it cost to build it, just making them basically not as good and selling them for the same amount of money. It's like, oh, we're going to sell this guitar for £200 or $200. Do we spend £50 making it? Or do we spend £30 making it? Or $30 making it? Well, we'll spend $30 and we make more money. And it's like, yeah, but it's not going to be as good a guitar. The person's not going to be as happy. It's like, they've given us the money. Bye-bye. That's it. And it just works that way. It's the same with Chipsons. I've had a couple of Chipson guitars through, and one of them I sold to my pal Alan, and it was really good. It was easily as good as any Epiphone Les Paul. Gibson branded and stuff like that, which I didn't like, but it was really good. And then I've had other Chipsons, and one of them I bought for £5. Honestly, I bought £5, paid for it, and it was absolute guff. It was just, it's like, the first one was made by a company that made guitars. So I don't know who they made guitars for. Maybe they made them for Epiphone or whoever it is they made guitars for. They made guitars. And the other one was made by a company who made things out of wood. So, maybe picture frames, small carved wooden ducks. Can you make this thing that's in the shape of a guitar? No problem. Yeah. And a photo from this distance. Oh, it's a guitar. As soon as you get closer, you go, oh, geez. Oh, it's not just a case of making something that looks good. There's an awful lot more to it than that. Aria Fullerton Deluxe, still made in the USA. Do Aria make American guitars? Maybe they do. We just never see them over here. Aria still make the PE series, the prototype ones, and they're like $6,000 or something like that. And it's like, because that's how much it would cost to build these guitars now. They don't, because no one would buy them. And a Grant Strat Longo, really nice. There's a Nico pickup. I was very impressed with it. It's possible. Grant are they didn't obviously make guitars. They just ordered them from factories in Japan. So they would do £100 Les Paul, a bit crap. But they would also do a £300 guitar from a completely different factory, but it's still the same badge on it because they just got it from the factory. I've got a few Grants that are really fantastic guitars, like really what you would class now as high-end guitars. Well, yeah, no, I still £1,000 to me is a high-end guitar. So they're a high-end guitar, not anything over £1,000. What's the word? Boutique guitar. So a high-end guitar, and it's not Les Paul shaped though, which is a shame. Otherwise, it would be worth mega bucks. Some of them are cheap, but yes, you do. My pal Wayne's got a Telecaster that's really good. It's kind of like it's a Fujigen or an Ibanez. I think now thinking about it, you know, it's a Fujigen built guitar, so it is. Well, it's the same company, same factory that built that and that built the Fender Japan Strat. That kind of level. There will be ones like that, but you probably find that guitar cost twice as much as the budget Strat they did, and they both had the same badge on it. They're both on the wall at the same time. One of them was built elsewhere, and one of them was built at Fujigen, you know, because he was just buying a pallet. So I'll buy 20 Strats and 20 Les Pauls and 20 cheap Strats, or 50 cheap Strats and 50 cheap Les Pauls. So there's an awful lot more of the cheap ones. Westone St. Louis music. St. Louis. I have heard that before. Originally, see Westone. How does that work, Pontiac? There is Electra or St. Louis music, and they sold the name Westone to Matsumoku Factory to make them. There are crossovers because you got Electras that looked exactly the same as Westones, and then eventually you get Westones back again. But in the 70s, making, I suppose, probably Les Paul copies, or I seem to remember them doing sort of 335 type things, badged Westone, but where a sort of import range from the St. Louis music in America went over to Japan, showed them how to build them, stuff like that. First bass was a Marlin Absolute Pish. I've not heard of the Absolute Pish model, but I know. The thing is, it's very difficult to get a P bass wrong because there's very little in it. So I have played Marlin P basses that were actually pretty good. I quite like the Fish on the 12th fret, or the Marlin on the 12th fret. But because it's so basic, kind of the same with a Tele, you don't really get. It's kind of harder to get a really crap Tele or a really crap P bass. It's when you start trying to do fancy stuff like Strats or anything else, or things that have got Floyd Roses, you know, or even I don't know why a jazz bass is that much more confusing than a P bass, but it kind of is. When they try and do fancy stuff, there's much more things to go wrong. So I mean, kind of trying to think if I've really had really bad P basses. Not as much, and not really as bad, really bad Teles either. Just because it's so simple, there's so little to get wrong. Chinese factories get a contract from elsewhere. They make a great guitar and lose money. The contract is renewed, and the factory cuts the quality so they can make some. It could come right down to the Telecasters I was buying. I bought. If you go back a couple of years, it was 3 years ago. Last time I went to China, I can't be able to go over there because but the ones I were buying, my girlfriend, I told her to, but she told her that I was a UK. I was from, you know, didn't say I was from Scotland, said I was from the UK because it's people know what that is more. And if it was good, I was maybe going to buy a lot more and import them. So necessarily the one I was given, also because I wasn't getting them sent from China to here, I was getting them sent from China to a city. Well, okay, it's still 1,000 miles away, but it was still a China thing. So the postage was like £5. And then I did send a couple of them back going, this is crap. And I sent them back because I could. So I think I was getting the absolute cream of the crop. The ones I was buying were not specially made, but specifically the best ones they had, even though it was about half a dozen or something like that, they were the best ones they had. So there could be an element of that. It's a business. I've actually heard that from people who work in the music guitar type business, it is apparently a really shit business. And dreamily you think in your head, you go, oh, but you're dealing with guitars. everyone must be going, oh, that's fantastic. It's like, oh, look at the new Stratocaster, the new Les Paul, oh, it's great. Oh, and if you're excited about it, and it's just not, apparently everyone's pure bastards. And it's literally just two numbers, like a number on a piece of paper. It could be anything. It could be stocks, washing machines, socks, guitars. Doesn't matter. These are business people. And if you're a good business person, you pay 10 cents, you sell it for $1. That's it. That's all that matters. If you can sell it for $1 and only pay 9 cents, do it. Why would you not do it? But it's a crap guitar. We'll make the money. It doesn't have. Have you seen Gumtree Glasgow? There's a dude selling a collection of Ibanez Roadster for 79, 81, 83. I haven't looked on Gumtree. I need to look up. But he might be someone that collects. Because the thing about Roadster, I remember seeing them. I remember them not being expensive. You're talking £100, £150 all the time. They're not all the same. It's like an Ibanez Roadstar is not an Ibanez Roadstar, because Ibanez Roadstar had a £150 model at the same time as they had a £400 model. So it's like, obviously the 400, it's 4 times the price, so it's a much better guitar. The things you tend to find that these things don't really matter, and you end up with ones in the middle where you can just pay the lower price and get the higher one. Not normally the absolute top of the range of all the Japanese guitars, like the ones you've heard of, like the Aria SB1000, the one that John Taylor and Duran Duran plays. You never see them cheap. And the same with the Yamaha SG 1500 and SG 2000. You never, ever, ever see them cheap. But when you come down a little bit and you get one that's like 3/4 of the way up the range, they're suddenly the same price as the bottom of the range ones. And it's like in the middle. It's like, oh, a lot of it. Heard of Bonnywood guitars? I have not, no. Are they actually made in Scotland? Are they electric guitars? I've thought about trying to make. See, at one point I had an idea. Wouldn't it be great if I could make guitars? After watching the Godin video, if I could make guitars using bits that grew on the idea, because in the Godin factory tour, you see Robert Godin, and he's standing outside the, it's just basically just big sheds. He's up here, yeah, that's where we season the neck wood, that's where we season the body wood, and that's where we route the bodies, right? And it's up here, yeah, the necks. See the big mountain there. See just to the left of it, that one. That's where we grow the necks, and they grow them for 20 years. They go in, and then they get put into that shed for 15 years to dry out, and it's like pure eye. And over on the other side of that mountain, over there, you can't quite see it. Beyond that ridge is where we grow the body, and I really like that idea. I wish there was more of that going on. Yes, sorry, your P-Bass and the Hondo P-Bass. Hondo did make Japanese guitars. Well, they contracted the 2 Japanese factories to make guitars. The Tokais did P-Basses, Fender lead copies, a Danelectro Longhorn type thing, the 36 fret thing, but they didn't make it out of cardboard, they made it out of wood. So it's actually better than the Danelectro. And they used Matsumoku to build. There's a sort of Les Paul Jr., which my pal's actually got one of. There's a sort of double cut Les Paul and a double cut Les Paul that kind of got the stringers in the middle to look like it's neck through, and a bass version of that. They were made at Matsumoku, and those are all 1980 or 80 to 82, something like that. And apart from that, there's no Japanese Hondos. There might be another. I'm sure I've missed out a couple of models, but there's like 6, 7, 8 models maybe that are all between, might be 79 and 81, something like 79 and 83, definitely in the middle there, that there were, but they were still making Korean ones as well. But after that, Hondo guitars are all pretty much good. And it's Samick that owned Hondo, so they kind of learned how to do it. It's like, oh, we've just ordered a big pile of Les Pauls off you. We'd just like to inspect the factory, how it's done, like taking photos of the machines that did it. All right, you put the neck on first. All right, okay. And then suddenly, oh, look, the Koreans can suddenly build guitars. But pretty much any Korean guitar you get from the 70s or earlier is just... It's somebody who's really good at making shelves and cupboards, been told to make a guitar or something in the shape, but don't know how to make a guitar, though. There's also a thing with that St. Louis music guy doing the same at Matsumoku. They did the same thing. They were kind of making cheapy, crappy guitars. They were a company that made the boxes for sewing machines, Singer sewing machines. So they made kind of crappy guitars, and then it was like some company, I think it might have been St. Louis Music, went round and went, right, okay, we'd like you to build guitars for us, but we want you to build them this way. And they went, all right, okay. Oh, you do that with the neck. All right, use this type of glue. Right, okay. All right. Yes, we'll make that for you. So they made a run of that, and then we'll just make our own guitars as well, but we'll kind of use the techniques that you've showed us. Sneaky, but the way it worked. Aria Pro 2, the Cat was made in Korea in 86 with some Japanese parts. It possibly does, yes. They did do that. They had branded ones. Hondo did that as well. Stephen Hondo started when they stopped making the guitars in Japan. They were suddenly buying Gotoh tuners. But the thing was, it's like, so you buy a guitar and you go, all right, okay, it's got Gotoh tuners, proper branded Gotoh tuners and a Gotoh bridge. Because you could see that. It doesn't mean the pickups were good, though. The pickups weren't very good in it, but the actual hardware, because that's something you could put in the advert. You know, you're basically selling these things by catalogue, not selling them by, here, have a shot of this, do you want to buy it? It's like, here's a photo of this. You know, lessons that have been learned. I mean, it's the same thing just now. If you look up a lot of the big guitar companies, basically, I don't know what percentage of people buy them off the internet, but really, if it looks good in the spec sheet, oh, look, it's got Grover tuners and, right? And it looks really good in the picture. They've chose a really good color and it looks yeah, that's what sells it. It doesn't have to be good. Current model last year's Epiphone SG and the Pelham Blue one. It wasn't Pelham Blue the one I had a shot. It was fucking rubbish. It was terrible, but it looked amazing. I nearly bought one. I went, oh, look, and they've changed the headstock to be not as ugly as well. That was really good. And my pal Chrissy happened to buy one. Like, I just think it's really right. Could you do a setup on it? It's like, well, you've just paid £350 on a guitar. Okay, maybe there's a couple of slight issues. The thing was fucking horrible. It was like the frets were all over the place and they were pure jagging and slashing it. I'm sorry, I'm not touching this. I'm going to give you it back, and you're sending that thing back. And it was awful. And I think a lot of people have told me in the videos, like, oh, I bought one, it's pure amazing. Okay, that was maybe just a bad one, but Chrissy bought another one last year, or relatively recently, one with mini humbuckers instead, and I was up here. Okay, you're brave. Good luck. And then a couple of weeks later, I hadn't heard back. I was up here. How'd you get on with the new SG? So I sent it back. It was the same as the one you had before. So the two that I've heard of, both been awful. But that's because you're putting them on a website and it says not actually being good. Frank, I mean, rewiring, it's not going to be anything difficult in it. There won't be anything super fancy. Rewiring's not. Guitar, it's made to look difficult so that people. It's the same as when maybe it's not so much now. I mean, I was like looking up, how to adjust a truss rod, like maybe 10 years ago when I first got the internet, and it was guys in America, not necessarily American, but luthiers. You going, yeah, so adjusting your truss rod's really easy. It's up here, yeah. So basically, you've got your truss rod, right, which adjusts the angle. So you put it on the jig, and you get the Plek machine, and you get the £5,000 files and stuff to work on it. Basically, what they want to go is like up here. Yes, oh yeah, you can adjust your truss rods. You just need to spend £1,000 on equipment to do it, or you could send it to me and I'll adjust it for £100, kind of thing, rather than actually making it dead easy. Because guitar wiring is stupid simple. It really is. There's nothing. It's not even the most basic electronics. Even the stuff I do, and people are how do you think up these mad wiring systems? It's stupid basic. It really is. There's nothing in it. I can't do electronics. I don't know how op amps and resistors and all that stuff really work. It's like that's complicated. We're talking about on the line of the first ever electrics you do in physics at school, when you've got a battery, a switch, and a light bulb. Instead of a battery, put a guitar socket on it. Instead of a switch, put a variable resistor, being your volume control. And instead of a light bulb, put a pickup. That's a guitar. There's not any more to it. And anything else is just that with stuff stuck on it. It's like, oh, but I want a tone control, right? So you just run a wire off there onto the tone control, right? Done. Oh, I want 2 pickups. So you put 2 pickups and a switch to switch between them, which literally goes that pickup that pickup, both pickups. It's really, really simple. Do love the old Ibanez basses. It can be very, very heavy. They can be, yes. But the thing is, front row, it's like the heavy thing. How much of this is? It's the tone. Where's Blacktooth Fox? I'm talking about tone. Tone was a thing in the late 70s, and tone, to get a good tone, it had to be heavy because somebody said that. So suddenly, these guitars weren't heavy because they used cheap wood or for cost. They were heavy because the thinking was heavier guitars sustain better. Sustain is the best thing. That's it. All these things happen as well. It's the whole thing about your tone woods and different things, and the reason like a Les Paul has the maple cap and the hardwood and the mahogany body is now because the maple the mahogany body gives it the bass end, but it's too woolly, so you need the maple cap to make it brighter. The reason they did it is because they were trying to compete with the Telecaster, and they knew that Fender didn't have the machine that could do the carved top. So they had a slab rosewood one, and they went, but we've got a machine that can put a carved top on it. So they put the maple carved top on it. And then so they're building it going up here, yeah, because we know Fender can't do this. So we've got our own thing. And then somebody must have gone up here, why are you doing that? Well, tone, it's like maple's a hardwood, so therefore it makes it brighter. And it's like, and suddenly that's what everyone could hear. So some of it's different. I don't know. That Gordon I got is unofficially my first and only case queen. Been fair to take it out of the case. I've had a few Gordons. I don't have any left anymore. I've had 3, and they were all very good, but they didn't really capture my imagination. There's one I didn't like. I had my gold P90 one, which actually Alan's still not paid for. It's been almost a year. I do like Gordon. They're kind of strange. They're kind of a bit off the wall and a bit different. The problem with the Gordons is, see if you're buying one that's between 1 and 10 years old, see if you're buying a new one, it halves in price within the first 10. Like if you try and sell that within 10 years, you're only going to get half the price for it, which means it's a really good second-hand buy, used buy. But when you see the one in the shop, there's one they had. It's like a sort of turquoise Strati, not quite Strat, somewhere between a Strat and a Telly. It's really nice. And you look at it, it's like £900, and you're like, for a Gordon. And if you look up second-hand ones from 5 years ago, you can pick them up for 3-4, and it's like, you're right. So it's basically loses half its value in the first couple of years. So if you're going to keep it, but I mean, the whole thing is it better than the £900 Fender? Yeah, it is. But the £900 Fender doesn't half in value in the next couple of years. So there's an awful lot more to it than just buying the best guitars. Because if people were only interested in the best guitars, in my opinion, West-Tones and Arias would be worth more than Fenders because they're rarer. They're not worth as much money. Ibanez Stagemaster. I don't know. I don't know the Stagemaster, but Ibanez did so many models, and they're still doing it now. I've been looking up recently. Like I've got an Ibanez there on the wall. This is just in for a setup. So many Ibanez models are only in the catalogue 2 years. I think they all get 2 or 3 years, but that's it, gone. And it's like you're looking through them, and it's like there's so many models. I thought they did them all at the same time, but they don't. I think they've got a limit. They always do 50 different models, and every year 10 go and 10 new ones come in, or something like that. It's a bizarre thing. I mean, I think even going back to this era, I think this is only 1985 they made Destroyers this shape, and then the following year they made this shape, made something else, and it's like they just do that and say with that guitar is only 1986. And it's even now. I mean, I was doing a guitar called a Road Core. So it's a fantastic guitar. That must be new. I've never seen one before. And it was like 2016 and 17. That's all you got it for. And it's like, it must not have sold, so they maybe bring it out. Actually, I was looking at, remember Iron Gear, the new series, Iron series, and that's not Iron series, it's some other series. It's gone. I remember that being new. It was only like 10 minutes ago, but it was 4 years ago, and it only lasted 2 years. So you no longer get Iron series anymore. Like, just gone. Like, the same with the X series, just gone. Mental. Oh, I missed out. Sustain is the only thing. Well, Sustain was king. It's just, it depends what people want. If you like Sustain, get yourself a Washburn Wing series, an early one, with its 5-piece through neck, weighs a ton, brass nut, harmonic lock bridge that's clamped up, strung through the back, and the pickups are called Power Sustain. It's like all those things are for Sustain, and it does. I did a video for it the other day, and the strings were ancient, didn't work, but I mean, it really is a hit a note, go and have some tea, and come back, and it's still ringing. Ridiculous Sustain, to the point of it took me a while to get used to playing the thing. In fact, talking about Sustain, that was actually got a sustainer in it, so I'm looking forward to playing that. I'm really looking forward to that guitar. I couldn't believe it. When I saw it, the guy who owns it, I picked it up in Blitzkrieg shop. He's the guy that bought the Ibanez Blazer, the one that I had a shot of, and Tony wouldn't sell to me. That I ended up buying my own one, the one with the coil taps in it. Amazing guitar. That's apparently his. And the strings were so rusty, it was unbelievable. And I was like thinking, all right, I thought it was 10 years old. It's not. It's a 2020 model. I don't know how he managed to get the strings so rusty. He must keep it in, I don't know, outside, something like that. I don't mind heavy, but now everyone hinges. Depends what it is. I don't know. See, I like a light guitar and a heavy. I can totally see if you're like a working. I don't know if anyone. I don't think this even happens anymore. Back in the 70s and stuff, folk used to be playing gigs every night of the week, and it'd be 2 45-minute sets. Or maybe if you're playing in a wedding band, a function band, if you're playing for 2 hours every night, I can totally see how you'd end up with a bad back with a really heavy guitar. If you're playing in the house or doing a gig a month or a gig every couple of weeks or even 1 gig a week, it doesn't really matter. Hey Neon, how's it going? Bonnywood is Nathaniel Forkert doing some interesting stuff. He did a short run of Dave Hill Super Yobs. All right. Watch my Shocking video. The production guy was kind of ironic. It has so little wiring in it. That is hilarious. Yes, no, you're right. I mean, that's like, but it still does have extreme wiring. It's like pure. Yes, everything's extreme. It's always got to have lots and lots and lots, or very, 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 very little. So, I actually sold. Where is Tone stored? In forums, on the internet. That's where Tone is stored. It's all in there. Yeah, actually, I was doing if anyone's interested in it's a really nice PV. What's it called? A Generation EXP Telecaster. I wired up a couple of weeks ago from my pal Scott. He's donated it to the Icebox, which is a venue in town. It's a sort of food bank, clothes bank, charity shoppy type thing, which kind of sells lots of DVDs and records and secondhand clothes. But it's also a venue at night. It's really nice, but it's like a food banky type place. He's donated a guitar in there. It's a PV Generation Telecaster. What happened was this guitar, you could buy it at the time. It had a piezo bridge in it, a Fishman piezo bridge, and really fancy tuners. And the thing was, at the time when it was bought, I think it was kind of near the end of its run, so you were getting sort of bargain on it. Basically, you could buy the whole guitar brand spanking new for the same price as just the bridge. So somebody's bought it, taken the bridge off it, never played the thing, taken the bridge off it, stolen the tuners off it because they were expensive ones to fit to their own guitar, and it sat in the loft for 10 years and then given to Scott. And it was like, so basically this guitar has never been played. It no longer has the piezo bridge in it. So Scott put like a telly bridge on it, and I put some mad wiring in it. And he's saying, it's okay if I write, if I tell him it's Malco modified. It was like, yeah, of course. Does it have any mad stuff in it? It's like, yeah, it does. It's got mental wiring. And I was like, I don't remember having mental wiring. It's like, I did. Basically, I had a volume and a tone, a 5-way switch, and a switch to turn on the piezo, and a volume control for the piezo. So there was 2 holes. So I put a 3-way switch in it, which was it's an HSS guitar. So it was you pull the switch up, coil splits the bridge, put it in the middle, makes it a humbucker, and if you push it down the way, it coil splits the bridge and adds in the neck, so it gives you the Gilmore thing, which is a switch that I've never seen anyone else do. So I kind of invented that, and with the other knob, I put in a high pass filter, which is like a tone control that instead of taking away the treble, takes away the bass. And I was like, oh, maybe that is wiring. And it's like, thinking about it, that is mad wiring. For one of my guitars, that's nothing. That's not mad. No, but it is compared to what normal people class as mad. My favourite bit about it was, because it used to have a battery in it, there was like a battery-shaped hatch. And it was a bit of a stash thing. So I wrote stash on the inside of it in gold pen, for stashing your whatever it is you're going to stash. Might be quite interesting. That's like, it's like a feature. Made it a feature. I made it a Guild SG, which is 10 power. Yes, I mean, Jeff, I know it's like there's more to than it's not just weight. I don't know. The problem is you just go down to how well built a guitar is. It's like you could take the best wood, like, I don't know, mathematically the best wood ever with the best pickups ever, and get an idiot to hammer it together, and you end up with a piece of shite, or you get a guitar like my Shockingbird, which is over there, is a joist and an old crappy Les Paul neck with hacksaw blades in it. But if you put it together well, which is probably, to be honest, more by chance than by skill, you can end up with something that's a pure beater. It's pure amazing. It's like, I keep seeing that with I've bought a few. I kind of don't advise doing it, like ex-kit guitars, where someone's decided they were going to build their dream guitar, and so they bought a kit and they bought all expensive stuff for it. So it's got Schaller, Floyd Rose, bare knuckle pickups, locking tuners, all that in it, and it's like, oh, it's got like a solid rosewood neck, and the body's made of papaya or something, and it's shit. So they're set. I've bought a few of these guitars for like 70 quid and stuff like that, and it's got £300 worth of parts on it that I basically took off and sold for £300, and I end up with I've got a thin line upstairs like that. It's like, it depends who builds it. There's a big difference, you know what I mean? If you got somebody who knows how to build a guitar, kind of maybe a wee bit like the FGN, they know how to build the best guitars in the world, but you tell them to make it using basswood and the sort of not fanciest maple, and they come out with that. Or you can give the most expensive woods. I'm thinking Spear guitars, when you look at some of them, they're not all, but Jimmy Egypt's actually got some, but they're expensive, and I think they're expensive because he's done a lot of work. He's basically built them, because they had the most amazing thick carved tops with fantastic looking wood, and everyone was really good. And even at the Seymour Duncans and Grovers and all that, and to play them, they were just shit, because whoever it was put together didn't know how to do it. It's like just throwing the best parts at it doesn't make it good. You can take not the crappiest parts, but decent parts, and somebody who knows how to build, and they will build a much better guitar than somebody who doesn't really know how to build with the most expensive stuff in the world. I have a DiMarzio metal pedal, and the volume and pots are actually marked 11. Yes, my Softtech, the gain and the volume both go to 11, but that was me with Letraset, because I had just seen Spinal Tap. It's the 90s. I thought it was funny. Horse Racing is an FGN telly with Seymour Duncan pickups and Marketplace. It's an absolute steal, because it'll be the same as mine. I've seen that very one. It's £300 on. It's a tobacco burst rather than being the sort of cherry red burst. Yeah, that's where you're sitting there going, that's got £150 worth of pickups in it. The pickups in mine are fucking. I've not changed them at all. I think they're perfect. That person maybe didn't buy the guitar for enough, but to 250 quid, that would been. Did you even get a squat? How much are the Seymour Duncans worth? Are they not worth like 100 quid? You're getting a guitar, yeah. No, it's ridiculous. I mean, I can't. I'm not buying it. It's exactly the same as the red one I've got. It would be brown. I just get different pickups, but yeah. So have a look at it. That's more than I paid for mine, by the way. pure ridiculous. I mean, that's what I was saying. It's that I've been talking about that FGN being 500 quid and going, it's a pure bargain at 500 quid. I paid, I will listen to that. So it's maybe not a good investment if you're buying a new one. I should play this a little bit. So I've got it on, maybe put some distortion on it. Loud! Guys, I need to have a look at those. I'll have a look at that once the stream's over. If I'm not too drunk. 1979 RS 1000, 520. Blazer gig at 445. Blazer got 450. Quality bag 450. The thing is, they're worth that, and it's a good buy at that. It's just hard. I mean, there must be an awful lot happen when you remember seeing them for an awful lot less than that. I mean, that's way more than I paid for that one, and that's better than any of those ones. But and these things come out the woodwork as soon as one sells for cheap, or one sells for expensive on Reverb or something. Suddenly, an awful lot more appear. People go, I didn't really want to sell my Ibanez Roadster. If I'm only gonna get £150 for it, I'll just keep it. It's worth more than that. I can't sell it. And then suddenly they see one go on eBay or Reverb for 550 or 600, and they go, it's worth 600. I'll put it on for 520. Maybe I'll get that. I don't mind selling it for that. So I don't know. The BL 450, I think, is my one actually. Yeah, it's the 550 is the one that the chap who owns that guitar there has got. That's the one that's got a coil. It's got the same pickups, but they're super 6 tap, whereas mine are just super 6 and they don't have the extra thing to be tappable. They're still fantastic. It kind of worked out quite well for me because I already had that with the super hotter than DiMarzio type mega single coil pickups, and then I happened to get that in a trade, so I've got a Strat with the vintage style pickups in it, or I put vintage style pickups in it. So rather than having that one that's got a switch that does both, I've got the hot Strat and I've got the vintage Strat. So it kind of justified me having that. I'm a pure expert at how to justify having more guitars. It's like, I've already got one. So I managed to talk myself into buying that FGN just because I don't have a telly. I do have tellies. I've got plenty of tellies. I've got no problem with tellies. I don't have any tellies that I've only got 2 single coils. All the ones I've got humbuckers or single, or one humbucker, or P90s, or one P90, or a Floyd Rose, or none of them are actually proper tellies. I mean, even managed to talk myself round this one, which actually I've been playing the last few days. I really love this one. This one, which in theory does have 2 single coils because it's got a 3-way switch, which is this pickup, both pickups, this pickup, and there was a hole here I had to fill in. So this pickup isn't on, but if you pull out the volume pots, you can add. When you pull out that one, it adds in 1 coil of this into this to make a humbucker. And if you pull out this one, it adds the other coil of this into this to make a humbucker. But if you've got it in, it is 2 single. And it's like, I still managed to justify that. It's actually made in the same factory as the FGN, but this was 1970, between 1970 and 1975. There's definite similarities. You kind of feel the same. It's just the old justifying guitars. I totally feel for everyone. Everyone's got different ways of justifying buying more guitars, and it's like, I tried to justify buying this. I bought this ages ago. This is when I didn't have that many guitars. This was my main guitar for 2 years, something like that. This was the one I played all the time. I did have my Red SG, but back in the days when I had this, my electric guitar collection was this, the Red SG, the previous SG, the Epiphone one, which I've still got when I bought my 18th, and an acoustic. Back in those days. So this one has got this. I must have had this for flipping ages. And circle frets. Yeah, Macron, you got to remember the circle frets. It's like, I actually noticed that, I don't know, on Scott's Odyssey, because he's got the Grenadillo fingerboard, Rosewood fingerboard, you can see the circularness of the fret's much easier than you can of mine, because mine's maple, just because obviously chrome or silver on top of a dark colour is much easier to see than silver on top of a light colour, so they look bendier. Yeah, I know what you mean, Pontiac, to randomly buy guitars, but I don't randomly buy guitars that cost a couple $100. I do randomly buy guitars for $20 or $30, $50. And the way I justify, there's obviously got to have a justification thing. The way I justify that is I tend to buy ones that have got something wrong with them so I can fix them and sell them, basically. So I don't charge enough money for it. I make less that than I did if someone actually asked me to wire it. But, I buy a bass for 30, 40 quid and fix it, sell it for 60, 70 quid, sort of thing. Yeah, maybe 100 quid, depending on what it's worth. I don't like to rip the piss out. I'm actually making a bit of a mistake with that the Thunderbird, because I bought it cheap and I fixed it and it's totally fine. It's great, and I've got it on thinking, no, I'm making plenty of money on it, selling it what it is. But they're worth more than that. It's a £250 bass. If you look, that's what they sell for on eBay. There's a few for sale with Marketplace across the UK, and I've got it on 175. Try not to be greedy, and I think it's not sold because people go, oh, these guitars always go for 250. Oh, you see a few at 225. There's one at 175. Something wrong with it. Must be a scam. Really annoying. Antonia didn't make copies though. It's like it's the same as anything else. You buy, some Antorias were really good and some weren't really good because they bought ones that they sold for £100 and they bought ones that they sold for £50 from different factories and all that. I understand, Pontiac. It's like I was very much. I mean, the reason I started building guitars was so I could get guitars that I didn't want to buy. So I built a Firebird. I built the double neck bass and guitar, and it was more just for fun. So I mean, these things were made of. I wasn't buying any of the parts new. I was buying old guitars to get the bits, because if you're going to try and build it, I just want to buy a body and a neck and pickups and tuners. It's going to be expensive. What you do is you buy a guitar that's got one of those things missing, and then replace that thing. That's how you get a guitar that's cheap. It's much cheaper to do that. And then ultimately, Pontiac, you're right. I don't need more than, well, I put it down to, I need. I see. There's needs and there's needs. It's just nice having them. And sometimes it gives you inspiration. Sometimes, playing something like this, because look at the way I'm standing with it. You can't do this with a Tele or a Strat or an SG or anything like that, just purely by the shape of it. So you play it slightly differently, and it can suddenly give you. You can play it all day. I mean, I'm way off the scale. I've been completely stupid, But I'm saying it's like having half a dozen guitars. But you would never have the half dozen guitars that are on my wall just now. Okay, those two acceptable, having an SG and a Strat. But you wouldn't have 3 spikies. Well, you could have 3 spikies. That one's a bass. Nah. If this was your guitar collection, I'm justifying it. So, got a Strat, a Fender and a Gibson. Right. Need them, obviously. Got a single pickup super guitar with a Strat trem on it. Got a double pickup super guitar with a Caller on it. Got a bass. Got a Sword that I made it a novelty guitar. Got a Floyd Rose Super Strat. That's not mine, but I could justify that by saying it's got a sustainer in it. Actually, that one and that one, maybe not that different. I don't know what a Tokai USG. I don't really know anything about Tokai. I do have one Tokai. It's made of plastic that I need to refret. That's it. So, everyone told. Well, that's the thing. But yeah, I mean, the Tone is like, I don't know. Tone's like, where's Blacktooth Fox? He's like, he's the Tone man. He puts on videos just called Tone, and it's like Tone's just one of those words that you can't describe as anything. It's so all encompassing. It could mean anything. I'm getting more t-shirts in, Frank. I wanted to say Mad Malco guitars. There was a mistake before. The last lot I got in just said Mad Malco, and I figured that's not really Mad Malco guitars, so I kind of gave them all away. I have to get, so So I'm going to get more, yes, and I'll try and sell them a bit proper. I tried setting up one of those T-shirt shops and all that, but they were so expensive, and I get so little money for them. It's like I hope I've closed them down. If you see them, don't buy them. It was like 28 quid or something you're paying for a T-shirt, and I was getting £3.50 for that, and it's like, plus having all the hassle of having to try and pay tax. Like pish, no. So it's not worth it. So basically, I'm just going to buy them myself and post them out. Once I'm selling 10 a day, I'll employ somebody to do that for me. You know what I mean? Macaroon, I can't answer that question. I've got far too many. I had too many ages ago. I'm not buying any more. And it's like, the thing is, occasionally I end up with them. And this year, and I say the thing is, I've got lots of guitars. I've maybe got 10 or 20 sitting through there that aren't mine. Just now they belong to me. Yeah, so they are mine. But they don't count in my head because I'm not keeping them. They are ones that are getting modified, turned into bucky casters, getting stupid stuff done to them and sold. That's their purpose. They're not actually mine. This year, I've been pretty good. I think oh shit. That might have been last year. It depends when I bought the Aria lasers. If the Aria lasers were last year, which I think they might have been, I've only bought 3 guitars this year. And 2 of them were in a trade for a swapping up thing with my pal Wayne. One of them's the Blade Runner, which I swapped for. How did it work this out? I swapped that for a Yamaha that I didn't get on with. Yes, Macaroon more than 25. It's disgusting. No, I mean, it's disgusting. There's no reason for it. I think, to be honest, I've probably got 25 Washburns. It's ridiculous. But the thing is, the way I started justifying, which is really shit, is I was buying a couple of times. I bought 2 or 3 guitars off the same person at the same time, right? So I spent £200, say, and I bought 3 guitars. I did the wiring and fixed them up, modified 2 of them, got £300 back. So I made £100, and I kept the best of the 3 guitars, which I still had to fix. And once you start getting into that dangerous territory, you get to the point of, I'm not buying guitars anymore. I told myself I wasn't actually buying them because I wasn't buying them. I was fixing other guitars to pay for them, so I wasn't actually buying them. I know it's wrong. I know it doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of the way it works. Some of them, the thing is, I've got quite a lot of guitars that are basically anyone I've got that I've kept is a good guitar. I don't have any ones that aren't. Well, apart from the sword guitar, it's the novelty that I made. But yeah, it's a bizarre thing. But they kind of come up on you, and it's like that whole thing about not having to pay for them yourself, and also not having to pay for the huge amount of money on them. You know, something like the Shocking Bird, it was just bits, and I got some of the bits out of bin, and it's maybe, even if you totaled up the parts, it's like 20 quid or something, and time, but I enjoyed building it. That doesn't count. It's mental. HS29, how many of them are Padwicks? As I was saying, I don't want to buy, there's no more guitars I need. I don't need any. And then when I got the Raider out, I was like, oh, I could maybe take a Raider bass. I saw you comment on someone on the Westone page on the Westone Padwicks, and I want one of them. I've never bought one. I've never seen one cheap enough. Now they're worth hundreds of money, but that's the sort of guitar that I've got a feeling I could find that in an antique shop for 30 quid, in which case I'm going to buy it. But that's what it comes down to. See something like this, the Antonia Telly. I was not in the market for another telly. I've got tellies. I don't need a telly. And I got that for the sort of money where you can't say it's not guitar money, not even the cheapest guitar you can find money. It didn't have pickups in it. I had the parts. I did it up. I needed a good clean bit of fretwork. I did all this myself to get it, but I've ended up with a guitar that I really, really like. And it was the price of 2 McDonald's, 4 bottles of Bucky type thing. That, it's like, I don't know what it's worth now. It must be worth a couple of £100. So it's an investment. I just haven't sold it yet because I'm keeping it and I really like it. But it's dead hard to. I don't know. I'm too much of an expert at justifying having these things. I mean, even this one, this was at the very start. I bought this, and I couldn't afford it. I paid £80 for this, right? Completely stripped. It had a big hole where the bridge should be. And when I bought it, I was actually on a stag weekend when the auction finished. I bought £8 for it. I didn't realise it. I wanted an Ibanez Destroyer. I didn't even look at the picture properly and notice it had this cutout bit on the bottom. But I knew it was Japanese. I knew it was an Ibanez Destroyer. And I knew it had the scallop fingerboard, which I was kind of interested in. So I paid £80 for it. And it was like, oh. And the guy was like, I'm so sorry this went for so much. I honestly did not expect that. He started the auction at £1. He didn't expect it. It was like, I think you paid too much. So I kind of feel kind of, I bought I've got a Floyd Rose for it that doesn't it doesn't quite fit, but I'll stick that in the bag as well. So I was like, happy, all right, great. To us, I wasn't not really sure what I'm doing, and I got the Floyd Rose, and it was a Gotoh Floyd Rose, and I got £80 for it. I put it on it. I buy it now at £85, so I cleared £80, and I basically got it for free. I got it without a bridge though, because the bridge didn't fit anyway. But because it's like, just being. So this was free. All right, Jess, you're not on any Westone forums. Okay, it wasn't you then. No, you're right. Sorry, Jess. Sorry. I'm getting you mixed up with Patrick Floyd. Pat Floyd. He's the other guy. The two of you are, I don't know, you're maybe not similar at all. I don't think he comes in. I've never heard a telly copy that sounds like a real telly. Oh, I'll have to disagree with that. I think you can get a telly that sounds like a telly quite easily. Mind you, my first telly is a Schecter one, which is they made telly parts. So basically, if it was the 80s or the late 70s or the 80s, and you wanted a 50s telly, not a 70s or 80s telly. If you wanted a 50s telly, you bought all Schecter parts and built one yourself, because they made parts that were spec'd and built to the same quality as the 50s tellies. So the telly I've got is a 50s telly, even though it was made in the 80s. And it sounds like a telly. It does have humbuckers in it. But I mean, you need to try some more tellies, podcast, because it can be done. I mean, I do know Fender tellies. Had a few of them. I don't know. It's a funny one. My name's Malcolm. I'm a guitaraholic as well. I can't. Oh, so I thought someone else was asking me the vulgar question of how many guitars. Too many. Too many. It's like contact. I don't know. I mean, maybe different years here, slightly different things. Maybe it depends on what kind of amp it is, what type of thing you're playing, and what it is you hear. And there is an awful lot of hearing with your eyes goes on. I know, not your. I mean, my eyes as well. I do have. It's like you can't. You've already prejudged the guitar before you've played it. That's it. It's like that is just the fact. I am against Les Pauly type shaped ones, even if it's good. I'll still play it. I'll still enjoy it, but I've already got a prejudice that's got to be overcome because I don't like Les Pauls, and I've thought that. Fenders are OT, just the pickups, more than meets the eye. There's an awful lot in it, yeah, but I mean, when you say a telly, I mean, are you talking about a Fender telly, like a Mexican telly? Because the Fujigen telly sounds more like Scott's $2,000 American telly than a Mexican telly does. And it's the Mexican one is a telly because it says telly on it. Same with a Squier. A Squier Telecaster says Telecaster on it, so it is a Telecaster. There you go, but it's a £150 guitar. So is that Fujigen, that the Antoria, is very telly to me. It sounds very telly, but the pickups in it are Mexican Duosonic pickups. It doesn't even have telly pickups in it, but it's still very telly. I don't know, it's mental. All right, Jeff, cool. You're in the same category as me. That's fine. I did get scared to count them. I did count them one time before. And it was scary, and then I stopped. It was when I did, in my last house, I had a staircase that took 32 guitars. And I did a video of me walking up the staircase with 32 guitars on it. And then I did another video of me walking up the staircase with 32 other guitars on it. I think at that time, though, that included ones, I've got 10 guitars that they don't count as guitars because it's just a body and a neck. Or there's something wrong with it. It's not worth fixing, and I can't throw it out because I'm too tinky. It's like the frets are it's just like it's a piece of junk basically that I just can't find myself to throw it away. If you've never played a pre-92 Les Paul Custom, you've no real benchmark. Well, I've played a pre-92 Les Paul Custom. Yeah. Nothing sounds as good as him. It depends what it is you want to sound like. It's a funny thing, though. Do you know, it's like, it depends what it is you're trying to do. I mean, this, if you want to play the sort of music that this is really good at, it's the best guitar you can get. And I can't even play that song, and it sounds like it. You know what I mean? Sort of. Kind of. But if you're trying to play the Shadows, then this is the wrong song, the wrong guitar. Hey, Burnsy, told Institute Chip to watch today, but he said he has better things to do. To Institute Chips. 20s, amateur. I thought you were older than that, X-Paps. Well, there you go. If you've got more, I mean, when I was in my 20s, I only had... Why would you need more than one guitar? Oh, a spare one? It's like I can understand. I'm really thinking down to what I really need. Really, really, is I need two basses, right? Because I'm in a Black Sabbath band and we're playing two different tunings. So I want two basses. One for normal tuning, one for thingy. And then for electric guitar, I suppose I need two. I need a good one that's ideally something that's got either coil splittable humbuckers or something like that, and a spare one in case I snap a string. And the old idea about I need an acoustic, I don't ever play acoustic. I've got acoustics. I've got a couple of really nice acoustics. I've also got a couple of really good acoustics, like four. I've got four. Oh fuck! I've got 5, 6. I've got 6 acoustic guitars. I've got my original Yamaha I got my 18th birthday, which is a really nice. No, it's a £200. No, not top level one. I've got the 12-string version I bought about 10 years later, and I've got 2 Washburns, and I've got an old Ibanez nylon stringer, and I've got a resonator. Which I never play any of them. It's like, why have them if you don't play them? And it's like, that's a stupid idea. I've also got some not quite right with the wiring in this. How can it still be thinking I've turned it off? Maybe the wrap in. Yeah, I think I might switch on to another guitar. This one's feeling a bit. I'm getting a bit rock stance with it. See, that's the difference. This and a Flying V. If you're playing this on stage, you stand like that and you put your, and it's like it's like a weapon. So that makes it better. Give Georgia a shout out. Georgia, is that a state? And is it not a country? Is that Georgian? AK188, how's it going? We're just drunk now. I've been on for 2 hours, so it's kind of winding up time, I suppose. I think I can't. The fact that I can't believe there's now 17 folk on. I was going to say there was 20 folk on. It's like half the gigs I've played to have been less than 20 folk, if you don't count the other band or the bar staff. 17. It's been going down numbers. I should have said I've been going. Hey Finn, how's it going? A Les Paul Custom. I don't know. I've had a lot of cheap fake Les Paul customs. But it's each to their own. Just because it works for somebody doesn't mean it doesn't work for somebody else. And just because I don't like it, I'm not saying I don't like it, but I mean, I like all guitars. I think everybody likes all. Apart from, there is a point where they get to when one doesn't work. You get a guitar that the bridge is in the wrong place, so it's out of tune. Right, that guitar, we can all agree that guitar is crap, right? But as long as the action's kind of all right, it's in tune, and it's physically doesn't make you bleed playing it, everyone likes all guitars. It's like, oh, do you want a shot of this? And it's like, pure, what, a Gretsch country gentleman? It's not really not. Of course, I want a shot of it. Damn right, it's still a guitar. It's still cool as anything. It's like, would you ever buy one? No, I don't think so. But I mean, I still want a shot of it. It's still a guitar. It's still cool. I like all guitars that aren't absolute rubbish. You know, there is a point where you get to one where you just go, and it's like, I don't like Les Pauls. It's like, well, no, I don't. But I think a lot of that has to do with the price of them. I don't think they're worth the money that they are. The Gibson ones, I don't think the Epiphone ones are worth the money that they are either. They're kind of twice the price they should be. But I mean, people are willing to pay that. And if that's your thing, I totally get it. When I bought my SG, or not so much that one, but the Epiphone one, I had to have an SG because of Tony Iommi. When I got it, it was really thin and strange feeling and stuff and really alien to me. But because it was an SG, I had to play it. So I willed myself into liking it, and now I do like SGs. To be fair, I've never bought any other SGs. I bought that, when I was 21 or something like that, and I've still got it. So that's, I've never had the urge to buy another SG because that's the one I wanted. So I've got it. Whereas everything else, Strats, I've got plenty of Strats, plenty of Washburns, plenty of Ibanez, all these things. I'll have to sort out the t-shirts, perhaps. I wouldn't buy a 12-string. If I needed one for a song or two, I would rent one. I don't even know if you could rent them. I don't know. The thing is, at the time I was doing my solo album, which I've never ventured to put on YouTube. I don't even know if I would now. And it was an inspiration thing. When I got the 12-string, it was amazing. It's a really nice one as well. It's a Yamaha, not an expensive one, but a not the bottom of the range Yamaha acoustic. It's fantastic. I really like it, but I never play it. It's like I don't really play acoustic. I like playing standing up. So I know a lot of people don't. I mean, okay, just now I'm doing a video. I don't need to. I mean, most people do when they're doing live streams are sitting down. I'm standing up, but that's because I stand up in all videos, because when I'm playing the guitar, when the video's not on, I play standing up. Always have. How else do you rock? How can you go if you're sitting down? If you're just sitting there, it's not the same. Everyone moves. You can't. But then again, that's just me. And acoustics, when you stand up with them, they're a more city downy thing. How long have I been collecting? I don't know. I don't even know if I do collect. Okay, less than 10 years. I suppose collecting would imply buying guitars that I don't need in any way at all. When was I started buying guitars that I don't need? I mean, I do remember even going back to something like that. When I bought Lena there, I sold another guitar because that was I wanted a guitar with a Floyd Rose. I didn't have a guitar with a Floyd Rose. So I thought, got a SG, I've got a 12-string guitar, I don't have a Floyd Rose guitar, so that was my Floyd Rose guitar. So when I bought that, I sold another one, the one that had the Floyd Rose on it. Back when things do that way. I do rescuing crappy guitars. I do like rescuing guitars that are unfairly dismissed, but some of them are crap. I don't agree with the Les Paul thing. They're far too expensive. I've got have a shot of a Washburn Wing. It's better than a guitar than a Les Paul, and it doesn't cost $2,000. And you really hate most Strats. Well, yeah, totally. I used to hate Strats. I'm not pure religious in the resent of going up here. Everything I say, I might change my mind later. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it, and then suddenly go, all right. Well, maybe. I mean, I couldn't stand Strats. I used to hate Telecasters, and then they became my favorite guitar. I will change my mind when maybe in one mood. It's like, you're watching I'm trying to think of a film. I've watched films before where it's like you watch it and go, that's crap. And then you watch it 5 years later and it's amazing. You're in a different mood. So it's maybe the first time when I played the first Les Paul or something, it was a badly set up one. So I've got this thing in my head that says they're all crap. I don't know. Or maybe when I went in and tried one in Guitar before I started buying shitloads of guitars, and I decided I was going to buy a really expensive guitar and I was going to pay it up. So I went in and tried a Gibson Les Paul Studio or Les Paul Standard at $2,500, and it was crap. Maybe it wasn't crap. It was good. It was nice. It wasn't better than the SG. I didn't pay $2,500 for that, and it's like, and I looked up at the wall and they had 6 of the exact same one in the same color, and then 6 in the dark color, and then another 10 there, and it was like, and they went up from that price, and it was like, it doesn't have any. Yeah, buying a new one, maybe buying an extremely rare one. They're not rare enough for me. And Gretsch are different as well. It's like, I don't really like semi-hollow guitars. I'm not really. I like the idea. I've got my Yamaha one that I like, but it's a funny one. You get a real custom Strat with. See, that's the thing. What's a real custom Strat with lace sensors? I've got lace sensor in that. So you just play in the middle position there. It's a real custom Strat, isn't it? That's your brain telling you what it is before you actually play it. Which, I mean, I'm willing to accept that I do that as well. But everyone does it, so you just got to accept that there is a tasty thing. It's like, the first taste is with the eye. See the best curry you've ever had. See if it looks like it's a shit. You're going to look at it and go, oh God, I'm not going to eat that. It might still be it, but you've already decided before you even tasted it. And a Les Paul is not a vintage Les Paul Custom and Cherry Sunburst. Yeah. Okay, Baldino, what about your long neck tenon makes a difference, right? Washburn Mines are through neck. So that's a really, really, really long neck tenon that goes to the back. Everyone, you got to remember, Baldino, you can. I admit to being biased and judgmental and stuff, but you can't say that you're right. If you put "you believe" at the start, then that's totally fine. I totally justify that, but you're not right. You're perceived right. I'm never right either. Sometimes, I think this is a really great sound guitar. I'm sure a lot of you would play this and just go, that's just crap. I think some of you would go, oh, that's much better than I thought it would be. Yeah, it comes down to as well musical taste as well. Yeah, it's like there's not really any way in. I mean, I think try. I don't know. The thing is, you don't really have the option to try a Washburn one, like a real one. If you could find one, it would be different. And some guitars just connect with you, and some other ones don't. Even if you write it down, even mathematically, some guitars you just like for whatever reason, and some guitars maybe don't do it. So it's your instant thing is, I really like this, or and then after that you start going, oh, why do I really like this? And you can go, all right, I really like this because it's got a really thin neck, and then because it's whereas it doesn't, all that shit doesn't matter. Or for the reason you don't like it, it's just, yeah, they don't like it, you do like it, that's it. You can have as many excuses for either direction you want, but sometimes it's just for you. Used to buy Les Pauls or shite. Found it. I do like it. Okay, excuse myself about ducks, but wind up Les Paul fanatics were calling their guitars firewood. Yeah, I didn't call them firewood. My main gripe against the Les Pauls is how much money they cost. You know what I mean? It was a bit of hocus pocus I played there. Well, they're probably wrong, but bits of it. But I'm always saying that I don't like Les Pauls, but I don't. It's not like pure. If you do like Les Pauls, you're wrong. It's just not my thing. I think you can get better. But if you're the most mad Telecaster freak ever, no one's ever going to tell you that a Stratocaster's better because you're already a mad Telecaster freak, and it's like, well, it's each to their own. Pontiac, I'm afraid I've done that as well. Yes, I generally tend to buy guitars at the lower end of what they're worth. So pretty much all the ones I've got, I could, if I was to sell them, like on Facebook or Gumtree or something, if I put them on for what I bought them for, they would sell in 30 seconds. If I put them on for, 30% more than I bought them for, I would sell in an hour type thing. So yes, I justify it by that as well. Having things. It's like, I've also not gone out and not done other things rather than buying a guitar. It's like, pure, do I go to that gig? And it's like, pure, yeah, okay, so it's going to cost me 50 quid for the time to do that. I don't really need to go to the gig. I won't go to the gig and I bought a guitar instead. Whereas if I'd gone to the gig, okay, I would have the memories of going to the gig, but it would have cost me the same as a guitar. I've still got the guitar, which is worth more than I paid for it. Yeah. Guitar is worthless. It's the music that's made with it. I don't even think it's the music. It's how much you enjoy it. I can't say that, how much you enjoy it. It's like, yeah, if you really, really enjoy it, then it's the best guitar in the world. It is. It's like, it's fantastic. And sometimes it doesn't fit specific categories. It's like, just because it's like pure, it doesn't matter whether it's made of tone wood and it's got Seymour Duncan or bare knuckle, and if it's a really good guitar and you really like it, then it's a really good guitar and you really like it, so it's better than anything else. Mental. Hey Scott, yeah, I know, but you've got Les Paul. I've got, but that's just, I say that about my Washburn Wings, which I think is kind of like a Les Paul in so many ways, but I think is better. But you can't play it sitting down, and it hangs really badly. But it doesn't have that funny neck angle thing on it, and it holds tune a bit better because, there's all these things. Catch you later, Macaroon. I'm just about to wind up anyway. I've been on for 2.5 hours. Yeah, I don't. I mean, hopefully on here we're having arguments, but just try not be. Nobody's ever. It's always pure. I don't know. It's a good thing about argument things that don't really matter. Really, it's not like pure the end of the world if it's other people disagree. And I could. That's about the argument of whether a P bass is better than a jazz bass. It is. I don't know if there's any bass players on. I just like P basses better than jazz basses. And it's like, well, not saying that if you gave me a £50 P bass and gave me a £2,000 jazz bass, I would probably like the jazz bass better. Yeah, I suppose if you have had the choice, I would never choose a Les Paul. If I had the choice of an Epiphone Les or an SG that only had 4 strings on it, or a Les Paul with 6, I would choose the Les Paul to play the gig. So it's not the end of it. I think Aria PE or Electra. I don't know the Electra Invicta. I do know the Aria PE because I've got one of them. Yes, I think so as well. But you've got to be willing to put up with the things that make it a bit awkward. But I'm not bad for making things a bit awkward. Like the Thunderbird bass we're talking about earlier on, it's just big, so you can't find a case for it. Or one of my favourite basses, that one. It's pure huge, and you can't lean it against the wall. That's really, really annoying. That's a really shit thing about Explorers. You can't be playing an Explorer with it and then just go, oh, hold on, I'll just lean it against the wall when I go for a piss. You can't, because it's at the bottom. It's like that. That's a shit thing and a bad thing. But I still love it. There's all that, there's lots of things like that. I think we could all, well, I know, but some people will disagree and say Eric Clapton's absolutely the most amazing. He is God, possibly. The Aria PEI is a more ergonomic design than a Les Paul. You get better high fret access, it's lighter, it's thinner, it's got the better, in my opinion, scale length, the 25.5-inch scale, longer, slightly better tension. So yes, it's kind of like an improvement on it, but that's not really what the point is. It's a funny thing. Oh, do you like? I like Blind Faith as well. You could see that's where it comes in as well. It's like also these things like White Room and Tales of Brave Ulysses, the Mad Wawa stuff. I do like that. But the thing about I actually Pontiac, I saw there was a few years ago. It was Steve Winwood and Eric Clapton did a concert thing, and Steve Winwood is amazing. I don't really know that much about him, but see when he's doing that thing, and it's like Steve Winwood, he's kind of playing. I think he's playing Hammond organ for a couple of songs, and he's playing like a Strat along with Clapton doing the Blind Faith stuff. Steve Winwood is amazing. It's like some folk you can see, and you see them on stage for 2 minutes, and you just go, shit, whoa. Like Rory Gallagher has that. It's like, I don't really like Rory Gallagher. You watch him for 2 minutes, you go, for Gary Moore as well. Depending on which things you watch, it's just like pure. I get it really, really quickly. Yeah, that's Steve Winwood. It's like, was it Keep On Running? But that song, which you kind of know from everywhere, you didn't really realize it was him, and he was like 15 when he wrote it and recorded it, and 16 when it was number 1 in the charts. And you're like, what? He's amazing. I Said to the Blind from Tommy. That's the one. It's really annoying. Tommy's so flawed though. There's so many because it's Arthur Brown that sings in it. He's only in it for like about 6 frames, and it's like he's so good. And it's like the Who are such a bizarre band because in so many ways they're the best band that ever existed, but it's like they don't have the album that really works. Who's Next is amazing, but it's like bits of other stuff. They never really got it all right at the same time. So you have to kind of take bits from this and ignore this bit. Oh, it's amazing. I agree with you, Tommy's a work of pure genius there, Bardino, but there isn't the ultimate Tommy because bits of the film are better than the album, and the film's not as good as the album, and the bits of the orchestral one, it's like, do you have to kind of chop it up? And the original Tommy is amazing. Actually, I've got the remaster. I don't remember when DTS surround sound was a thing, or Super Audio surround. I've got the Super Audio CD of Tommy, the original one, and it's sick. It really is. It's a little bit obvious that they kind of ran out of money, so they still had a few days to do in the studio overdubbing electric guitar. So there's not enough overdubs on it. They basically had to just stop it now. They were meant to have another week, and they ran out of time. So a lot of the songs, when you hear them by the time it gets to the Tommy film soundtrack and they're a bit more electric-y, it's because he actually had a chance to put the lead guitar on it, whereas it wasn't on the original thing. I mean, some of it's a bit acoustic-y and a bit sparse, but because of the thing. Quadrophenia is the thing is Quadrophenia's got some of the best music, but it is draggy and doesn't quite work. What I really wish when we're talking about the I was talking about the surround sound mix. Quadrophenia was originally devised as a quadraphonic album, and apparently the last film, the last section, the last side, the last record of it, right? You've got each of the 4 members of the band had their own theme. So you had like the bellboy was Keith Moon, and I can't remember what the other 4 were. No, not quite the same as the film. So you get the bellboy, the mod, the bin man, and something. But you had the 4. Apparently, Pete Townsend spent months making it so that you could play all the 3 themes, like Can You Feel the Real Me and Bellboy and I can't remember exactly, 515, all playing at the same time consecutively in 4 separate speakers and all working and then all flowing in together at the end to make the end, which sounds immense, and I don't know why they never actually worked it out. Hey Danny, you're too late. I'm just about to cut out. I'm right on the toenails of the bucky, but well done anyway. It was called Tam. Tam, can you hear me? But see, if you're, I really feel like watching. That's one I've been putting in. I didn't do it tonight. I've been putting films, just random shots of films, and instead of saying subscribe, because I've got like and subscribe there anyway, you know, to like and subscribe. But putting just random shots of films. Tommy has to be one. Tommy's belter. Tommy's awesome. It just makes so much sense. That was the first time I ever really saw Elton John and went, "That's Elton John." Wow. Wow. You can't ask me to play. What I would love to be, I was like, I'm free. I'm free. I'm free. I can't remember. Good on for the night to reach the highest high. You laugh and say nothing that's simple. And you've told many times before, Messiah's pointed to the door. No one has the guts to leave the temple. Goes down for you. Yeah, okay, I know the sound's not that great, but I'm putting all the wrong chords. I used to be able to play that one. Yeah, the phaser, it's like the phaser is just, it does it on YouTube. So really, I should really play guitars that have old strings on them that I've never set up. Like this one. Because it doesn't really matter, you can't hear it. It's not the loud, I know it sort of is, but it's kind of the automatic compressor, I know. But what I really want, I wish I could play. The best bit in Tommy from me is, I overwhelm when I approach you, make your realms of death and die. When it's got like, he's on the hang glider, he's got white flares on and no top. And the crowd are disciples. Lovers one, we are the light. I am the light. From then on, I've watched the end of Tommy so many times, especially in the surround sound mix. It's fantastic. And then right at the very end, when he's running along the jetty, it starts to get really slow, and it's like it just falls into the water, and then it just goes straight into the into listen to you. Amazing film. Absolutely love it. It's not but the thing is that the sound quality is not. It's not the mic, it's the stream, because the sound doesn't sound like it does in my normal videos. It's something to do with the upload. And the DI thing, no, I'm not going to do the DI thing. Not yet. Not until I've got a desk and a USB converter. That's not the issue. That's not the issue just now. The issue is something to do with the upstream thing. Because when I do normal videos using exactly the same equipment, it sounds all right. But it's on. Oh man, you can argue about this as well. It's not. Why does it not sound the same when I'm playing just now as it does when I do videos during the week then? Because it's the same mic. Anyhow, that's me. I've finished my bucky. It's time. Thanks everyone for joining in. I do find that there is something. This guitar is not quite sorted yet. It's I think maybe the volume box is a lot of interference when it's off. Maybe just not been touched much. So this week, it's going to be an Ibanez week, pretty much. Well, I've got two Ibanez. I've got the two extremes of the scale. I've got this one, which has got a Sustainiac in it, and it's I've already forgotten what type of wood it is. My favourite type of wood to say is Cocobolo, which my Schecter bass is made of, and I was enjoying Scott's guitar, which is a Grenadillo fingerboard. I really enjoyed that, but that's Pamba, something like that. So I'm drunk, so I don't want to be playing. I'm not going to play it. It doesn't have any strings on it. But this neck is it's made of fancy wood, and I think it's Pamba, Pada, or Panga. I quite like saying that as well. So I'm looking forward to getting that up and running. That should be an absolute belter of a guitar. I think kind of wish it wasn't matte finished. I like a shiny guitar. A matte one, not so much, but it's really good. I can't play Blazing Saddles before I go. I've got no chance of getting it right. Sure? No, I can't. It used to be so fun. It used to be so. No, can't remember. So I'll just give up. No, I will remember how to play Blazing Saddles next time. I can't even remember the first chord. That's how bad it is. Right, cheers, Danny and Ballardino and Daniel and Mr. White, obviously. And X-Paps. X-Paps think Les Pauls are the best looking. That's totally fine. Totally 100% disagree. That's maybe my main issue, but it's fine. Minor verse change to major for chorus, transient mix. I was trying to play that. I was trying to play a couple of. The thing is, ABBA just have annoying chords. It's not obvious. It's really obvious but you have to kind of actually remember it, which is really annoying. I do like ABBA though, regardless of how popular they are. Anyhow, rock on. I love you all. Lots of crap coming up during the week. Big thing, Scott thing. I was over at his yesterday and I think it's just hours and hours of footage that I need to edit down. The Fujigen video, and then one where I've actually found to see if I stick the GoPro, I've got like a special head. This thing. So although it might look a bit silly, it doesn't have the scratching when I'm walking about places. So, and people just ask what's going on, and it's like they don't say what are you doing. You just go, I've got a GoPro on my head, and it's like yeah, I can totally see that you've got a GoPro on your head, and it just seems to work quite well. And especially since I've now got my phone connected, because I've got given a phone, I can now connect it so I can see, I can look at what the camera's looking at, and I can go, all right, so it is actually looking dead ahead. Perfect. Catch you later, Stu, Pontiac, Daniel. Love you all, Jeff. You're fantastic. Thanks so much for helping me do this. I'm loving doing the live stream thing. It's totally become, was it number 42 tonight? I don't know if anyone noticed that. The Answer to Life universe and everything. If you've not looked up YouTube and tried to find the entirety of the radio series of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, stick it on when you go to sleep. It's phenomenal. They keep having to move it because there's obviously copyright issues on it, but the whole thing is just fantastic. End stream. Love you all. Catch you later. Almost gave you a kiss there. I'm not going to do that. Rocking.